Good evening. I call this meeting of the City Council to order for November the 16th, 2021. Welcome, everyone. At this time, I'd like to ask Reverend Al Lathan, pastor of Canaan Missionary Baptist Church, to open our meeting in prayer.
Shall we talk to our God? Our God, our Father, we come with thanksgiving on our hearts. Father, we come thanking you because we're able to come to be at this meeting. We ask now that you bless our councilman, bless the agenda that's on issue tonight. Lord, you said if we come to you, we pray, humble ourselves, seek your face, and turn from our wicked ways. Lord, we coming right now in your face. We come and seeking you, Lord. We ask that whatever on the agenda, Lord, we ask now that you give them the right mind, give them the right mindset, that not only is their minds right, but it's pleasing in your sight. You said if we turn from our wicked ways, we must have wicked ways because you said if we turn, Lord, we're asking that all wickedness be done. Lord, we ask now that we know we have problems in our community, but we know you able to solve them, Lord. We must give them to you. So we're asking that you let this council do whatever they need to do to bring the city together, to have the patience, to have the providence, to let all of them know that they're working on their behalf and that we trust in you, and we're going to give them to you right now. Whatever it is that your will is, Lord, we're asking for your will. And for that, we say thank you. All these and other blessings we ask in your darling son, Jesus' name, and for his sakes we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Latham. Members of the council, do you have any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yes, sir, Mayor. By examining the crowd today, I think it would be fitting if we add the discuss or approve the mask mandate in city facilities.
Okay, we will add that under the policy agenda. We will make that M. And Pat, I'm going to write it right in order so I don't forget it at the end of the meeting. She always has to remind me. Okay. Any other additions to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to adopt the agenda for this meeting? I have a motion by Councilwoman DeChico. Do I have a second? Have a second by Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Council, before you are the minutes of the previous regular meeting.
There's nothing to cancel.
What's up, Doc? That's all right. Members of the council, do you have any changes or additions to the agenda? We already did that, didn't we? That messed me up. Before you are the minutes of the previous regular meeting for November the 2nd, 2021. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Stewart. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Mickens. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. The docket of claims for November the 16th, 2021 is $919,496.34. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Stewart. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Jones. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda, items A through H. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion by Councilman Green. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. At this time, do we have any general comments from the council? If not, before we proceed, I'd like to ask Chief Shelton to come forward for the swearing in of an officer, followed by Chief Andrews for the swearing in of 2 firefighters. Thank you. How are you? Good. The oath of office, I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Mississippi.
and the state of Mississippi.
I will perform the duties of this office
I will perform the duties of this office
to which I have been appointed
to which I have been appointed
and which I am about to assume,
and which I am about to assume,
that I will not be influenced
that I will not be influenced
in any matter
in any manner
on account of personal bias
on the account of personal bias
or prejudice,
or prejudice,
that I will in all respects
that I will in all respects
observe the policies and directives of the Columbus Police Department.
observe the policies and directives of the Columbus Police Department.
I will execute the duties of my office as peace officer
I will execute the duties of my office as peace officer
with integrity,
with integrity,
police ethics,
police ethics,
and protect the property of said Columbus, Mississippi.
and protect the property of said Columbus, Mississippi.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, officer.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Say aye and then state your name. I
I, Michael Walker,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to faithfully execute my duties
to faithfully execute my duty
as a member of the Columbus Fire and Rescue,
as a member of the Columbus Fire and Rescue,
and to do so with honor,
and to do so with honor,
integrity,
integrity,
dedication, and diligence,
dedication, and diligence,
to support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
to support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the state of Mississippi,
and laws of the state of Mississippi,
very good, the Charter and ordinances of the city of Columbus,
Charter and ordinances of the city of Columbus,
and the rules
and the rules
and policies
and policies
of Columbus Fire and Rescue,
of Columbus Fire and Rescue,
to defend and protect our citizens
to defend and protect our citizens
and their property
and their property
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
from fire and all manner of harm,
from fire and all manner of harm,
for which my training and skills may allow.
for which my training and skills may allow,
Good. To conduct myself at all times
to conduct myself at all times
in an honorable manner,
in an honorable manner,
befitting the trust and confidence
fitting the trust and confidence
placed in me
placed in me
by those I serve.
by those I serve.
I serve beside and
I serve beside and
to faithfully endeavor
to faithfully endeavor
to uphold the dignity of the fire service
to uphold the dignity of the fire service,
in memory to all
to all
who have served before me
who have served before me,
and with respect for those yet to serve.
and with respect for those yet to serve.
Congratulations. Congratulations again to our newly sworn-in personnel. Thank you. Now I'd like to read an excerpt from the Small Business Saturday Proclamation. Whereas the City of Columbus, Mississippi celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas 7% of Small Businesses Saturday shoppers recognize the impact they can make by shopping small. 85% of them also encourage friends and family to do so, and whereas Columbus, Mississippi supports our local business that creates jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. Now, therefore, I, Keith Gaskin, Mayor of Columbus, Mississippi, do hereby proclaim November the 27th as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and the communities across the country to support small businesses on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. We also want to announce that on December the 7th, 2021, at the next council meeting, we'd like the citizens to know that we plan to hold a hearing for the city's food truck ordinance on the next council meeting on December the 7th. Next on our agenda, we want to discuss the Arpa presentations. Earlier this year, we asked for proposals on how to best leverage the funds received from the American Rescue Plan Act, or more commonly referred to as Arpa. We have two consulting firms here tonight for a presentation. I want to remind the citizens that we've also had a committee review of the presentations that you'll hear tonight. We're looking for citizen input on this. We hope to discuss this at our next work session and vote on this in December. Now, it's important that everybody remember that we're not required to accept either of these proposals. This is just a way that us, like other cities of our size, have been reaching out for recommendations on how to work towards leveraging this money that many people in state and federal government have said is transformational dollars to our community. So we want to make sure that we do this in a thoughtful and in a process where we get a lot of feedback from the community as well. So with that, let's see. Our first presentation will be by Kevin Stafford of Neil Shafer in association with Butler Snow and Vision First Advisors. Hey, Kevin.
Mayor and Council, good evening.
Good evening.
I know as y'all have asked me in the past, I'll remove this so you can understand me a little bit. And also, I want to take a couple of these and pass them around as we follow along here.
Thank you.
Joe, I assume this is the clicker? All right, thank you, sir. Yeah, once you get it up and going, Joe, I'll be ready to go. But Mayor and Council, first off, I want to appreciate the opportunity while we're getting this put together. I don't get the opportunity to come before you and present our qualifications as a firm very often, and I got to thinking about it with a lot of new faces and even some old faces. We haven't had this opportunity. So not to say I want to do this every meeting or every year for that matter, but I do appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight.
Thank you.
I hope obviously our partners too will be somebody that you'll see that could be beneficial to our citizens and our community. All right, well, and I'm not hitting that, so. First off, again, the team we put together is a combination of Neil Shafer, Vision First, and Butler Snow. One of the things we saw important about these funds, first and foremost, are the compliance and the administration these funds. And while Neil Shafer is an all-in-one firm and we could do it all in-house, we thought these funds really need a true checks and balances and somebody that's a third party that has the legal representation and also the accounting representation, much less the engineering ability. And while I know y'all's proposal did search for an engineer at this point, there are some other factors we thought would be very important to incorporate with our team. So that's our team that we're putting together. And if y'all hit the slide, yeah, next slide. First off, I'll tell you a little bit about Neil Shafer. We are the largest firm in the state of Mississippi, founded in Jackson with 500 employees. We are the only firm in Mississippi that is ranked on the Engineering News Record top 500 firms in the U.S. Right now, this year, we're ranked 206 out of 500. We are the only firm that has that designation in the state of Mississippi. Obviously, our footprint, as you can see there, is in the southeast region. We have 38 offices over 9 states and continue to grow. I've been with the firm myself about 22 years. When I began, we were 120 employees and about 12 offices. So we continue to grow both organically and through M&As. But we're a full-service civil firm. We are very disciplined in the various aspects of civil engineering that we get into. So I'm not going to read this slide to you, but what this slide represents are all the disciplines we have in-house. The difference between the white and the yellow, I thought y'all may find interesting that those in the yellow I highlighted are actually disciplines that we serve out of our office here in Columbus. It does 2 things. One, it shows you kind of the depth that we have here locally, but also it shows the depth that we have from a discipline standpoint across the firm. And so in hiring us, you get all of these facets. Y'all have seen this over the years. A lot of times you call me, and unfortunately, I'm the face, and I can go out and get the experts that we have in the firm to actually get you where you need to go. And so this just really is a representation of all the different services, a mere snapshot of what all we offer. Now you got it going now. There you go. Not going, Jeff. It's actually in the actual presentation at this point. I can see the cursor moving. Technology, got to love
It is.
Well, with that, I'm going to move forward because y'all have the slides in your hand, but the next slide, what it's going to show you in the interest of time, are the people that represent these disciplines that we do. And it's the same difference with these people. All the different people we have in our firm are obviously experts in their field. And so we pull the experts in where needed as necessary. As y'all know, with this Arpa funding, there's a lot of different avenues you can go down. And so with that, we have the expertise necessary to move that forward. And again, just like the previous slide, those highlighted in yellow are the expertises we have here locally in Columbus, and those in white are those we can pull in from the rest of the firm. So again, it shows both our local strength and our bench strength firm-wide. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. This is our subsidiaries that we have. We have a firm, MapTech, that was founded in 1997. They have several survey crews that survey all over the Southeast, licensed in the Southeast. We have an emergency management crew, True North, who's actually worked with the city on several disaster incidences in the past, tornadoes, straight-line windstorms. It says here that it was formed in 2010, but claim to fame is it actually started in 2001 in Columbus. When the straight-line winds came through, that was actually the first time Neil Shafer at that time facilitated, administrated those funds through FEMA for the city, and did that several times afterwards until eventually we said, you know, we need a subsidiary to cover this. And right now they're working wildfires in California, and don't ask me anything about that because I don't know anything about working wildfires, but they've done everything from there to Superstorm Sandy up the East Coast in New Jersey. So at times, True North can have up to 1,000 employees at one time, and so they come in and they hire local, but that's a subsidiary I take claim to fame is actually starting here in Columbus years ago. And then our Complete Communities group actually takes a holistic look at planning communities, and they come in, a combination of our planners and engineers, and they develop visions, they develop funding strategies, and also ways to implement for cities to have a better, well-rounded overall infrastructure to serve its citizens. So I give you all those subsidiaries to say, again, besides the disciplines and the experts we have on staff, we also have other subsidiaries that can help you along the way. Now, again, going back to our partners in this, Vision First and Butler Snow, my good friend Brenda Lathan called me and we were talking through, and administratively, Brenda and I have worked together for years, and y'all know Brenda. And so I've got her, I guess, in the back here. I want her to come sing and dance in the background the whole time. But nonetheless, Brenda Lathan is with Vision First, as is Kathy Gelston. And Kathy and I have worked together many years when she was with MDA. She actually, I think, first time I worked with her was on the Yokohama project when we assisted MDA in overseeing some of those funds that came through for that project as well. But I'm going to hit the pause button there because y'all know a lot about Neil Shafer, and I can tell you about Vision First and Butler Snow, but I'm going to let Kathy do that.
Thank you.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi. I'm Kathy Gelston. I actually retired from state government about 4 years ago. I retired from Mississippi State University, but before that, I was the Chief Financial Officer at the Mississippi Development Authority. I joined Vision First about 4 years ago, and we are a full-service economic development consulting company. We've worked in about 40 states so far. It's now 41. We just went into one more. We'd now color Oklahoma, in case y'all want to know. Nebraska. Sorry, looking at the map wrong. We work with 6 Fortune 500 companies. We do about 50% of our work doing site selection, but the rest of that work is done working with communities. Part of our team really does do a lot more of the site selection side. My job is incentives and compliance. That's what I did at MDA. That's what I do now at Vision First. Can we go to the next slide? Our team is relatively small. A lot of y'all will know Gray Swope. He's from the big town of Tibby. He was the director at the Mississippi Development Authority when I was there, and that's how I ended up with this company. We have deep roots. That's kind of a list of our diverse areas of expertise. But for this particular project, if we're chosen, the primary team will be me, and I will be using my CPA license as part of that. And Brenda Latham, we will be the two that will do your compliance. We will be the two that works with your accounting and your administrative systems and finds out what works for them. From an experience standpoint, I was at MDA when Hurricane Katrina hit. I was the CFO toward the end when we were putting out a lot of the money, and my job was to make sure that Gray didn't go to jail. And I'm very proud to report that Mississippi is used as an example to other states of how to do this without having a lot of fraud. So I'm very proud of what our team put together for that. Recently, under the CARES Act, our team worked with the Santa Rosa County, Florida, to help them administer their CARES money. It's very similar to what's going to happen with Arpa. There's rules about what types of programs you can have. There's rules about how those programs have to work. There's rules about how that money gets distributed. There's rules about how you report that, how it shows up in your financials, and how you deal with audits. So, those are the types of things that I'll be helping your team to do. And you will decide how much you want Brenda and me to do, or how much you want us to coach your team to do, and you get to control your costs that way. This last slide pretty much talks a little bit about our partnership with Butler Snow. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of Butler Snow. I think y'all currently work with some of our attorneys. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that Vision First president is Governor Barber. We have attorneys from throughout the United States on our team, and we will be working directly with a Butler Snow attorney named Parker Berry. He was very active in the CARES Act. He's very active in Arpa. He's done a tremendous amount of research already. And what will happen is if you say, can we do such and such with the money? If I say it in black letters, I'm going to say, absolutely. If we want to do something that's just a little bit hinky, then I'm going to say, let's get Parker to write us a memo. So we're covered. We have everything documented. I'm never going to put you in a position where I say, yeah, I think it'd probably be okay. That's not going to ever happen. I'm a goober accountant. Goober accountants don't do that. So anyway, that's kind of where we are, and I'm going to turn back over to Kevin now.
Thank you.
So I won't spend a lot of time, but in our org chart, in the statement of qualifications that we sent you, I just gave you kind of face with a name here. At the end of the day, I could fill this page up with people that we can bring to the table for you. But basically what this will show you, a lot of you may know Joey Hudnall, who was in Columbus a long time, served the city as city engineer for a long time. He is now the COO for our company, and as you can know, he's going to put every resource he can to make Columbus successful with the Arpa funds and to leverage it as far as we possibly can, of course, as will we. But he'll be our officer in charge over this project. I'll be your project manager, but as I say, I'm always kind of the swing man to get work done after that. And so what you'll see on the left side here are a lot of our key players in our office here. John Cunningham, who works with Columbus Light and Water in the landfill. It's kind of his background and specialties. I believe he's actually on Zoom. He has a sick child tonight that he had to be with, but nonetheless, he handles a lot of our water and sewer. So if we go that direction, he's there for us here locally. Zach Foster, who y'all have met before, you'll actually hear from later tonight about the airport. I know the paving aspects that he's into right now, engineer in our office. There's several other engineers I could have put in here, but for the sake of time, I'll stop and say we have a full service team here locally that can take any project from start to finish. In the middle, you'll see both Grace Swope and David Bowman. They're kind of our funding and legislative liaisons. If there's a time and a door that we need opened, those guys have been around the block for years, both on the state level and federal level, and can take us through wherever we need to go for whatever the ask may be as it comes about. And of course, Kathy just talked about the compliance and administrative side and some of the team that they have in place. I know that she and I have already had some conversations on ways that some of our clients can leverage their money, and Parker's already working for us through Butler Snow to see those ways and make sure they're still legal, and we can see them come to fruition. So compliance and administration, I mentioned this on the onset because I do feel it's one of the most important things that you can have. We've heard a lot, I've said in these meetings in the past, and here you talk about audits and making sure your financials are in line. And I just think it's really important that you do have that degree of separation, and I feel like our team does that by having an outside party from Neil Shafer that's going to manage and look over these funds, and Vision First and Butler Snow to keep our nose clean, if you will, for everything. But with that, again, we've worked with them in the past. So the first thing we want to do for y'all is come in and get a strategic plan and get an implementation plan to move you forward, see what you want to do. We actually had a similar meeting with a lot of different options thrown on the table with the prior administration when these funds just came out with light and water in the room. And so we hope that that can be carried forward at some point in time if that's a priority that y'all want to take forward. But we'll look at grant opportunities that are out there, both public and private. I know the mayor's mentioned a lot of private funding has been mentioned, and there are foundations out there that this money can be matched against. This is going to be federal money, again, that y'all can put in a lot of different slots and use. There's local partnerships. I've already mentioned light and water. I know y'all have talked with the county. We're already talking with the county and meeting with light and water on some sewer down Highway 69 that we want to expand already. And so there are some nonprofit opportunities as well. And then there's also state and federal partners. One of the things I'll know, I've told a few of you that, Hoseman has gone out and met with several communities, and our clients, we're doing that already. We're taking our priorities, sitting before him and showing him the different things in our communities that really need funding. He's already come out and said that he'll give a 50-50 match if you use it for water, sewer, or broadband, but there's sometimes needs that go beyond that 50-50 match. And so that's where, the state has $1.8 billion. The cities only have $900 million. Once they match that, they're going to have a lot more left over, and there's going to be priorities put to that. And we want to have our clients first in line to receive that. So we got to sit down and put a plan together and try to get, y'all's priorities in line, make sure it's legal, as Kathy's already said, and then start to implement the plan. So with that, some of the reporting and financial side, the compliance side, I want to defer to Kathy.
And just like Kevin said, it's really important to start with the end in mind. When we have that planning session, I'm going to want to know, what do y'all want to accomplish? Tell me what your goals are, and based on that, we're going to build programs so that those goals can be accomplished in a legal way. But if you start thinking about what the reporting requirements are, think about what the compliance and regulatory rules are, you set your files up in such a way that your audit's clean. You know where every document is. It's electronically exactly where we all know it is. And if we do that, that makes quarterly reporting so much easier. If you start out without thinking about that, you end up with a nightmare of reporting. So we want to do that. We'll want to make sure that we help the city set up everything the way it needs to be. We'll want to make sure that we're hitting all of the regulatory compliance dates. We're hitting all of the closeout documents, that we have everything in a specific file structure so that when you do experience an audit, and you will, that you don't have to call, oh gosh, Kathy, we don't know where such and such is. You'll have a file structure that helps you to find everything, and it will also transcend administrations if it has to. Because a structure, a good plan on the front end cleans up all of these other challenges that you'll have in the future.
So one thing I'll touch on with that as well is, besides Hoseman, as y'all know, he has set up a 7-member subcommittee through the Senate, and we have some local Golden Triangle representation on that committee. We have a meeting set up tomorrow in which we're going to take some of our clients' priorities before that, that one representative on that committee, hoping to leverage them that much further. And so again, those are tools we hope we can utilize for y'all as well. This slide here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. It's really something that we've used in past proposals. It's in the one that we submitted y'all, but basically it just shows a myriad, the chart on the left, of the different types of funding that we do for consistent clients we serve repeatedly. And these are just in Mississippi, and this is just a handful of cities with 15 offices. You can tell here that we haven't represented all of our clients that are here, but just wanted to show you the myriad of state and federal funds that we manage year in, year out for our clients. And that you see Columbus is the first one in the slot there, and you see a lot of diamonds there in ways that we've served y'all in the past. We were talking, and we haven't ever put a number to it, but we think we're well over $250 million just for Columbus that we've leveraged in money in the past. And of course, we're in the billions across our entire footprint, if not tens, if not hundreds of billions. We've, over time, through our subsidiaries, helped manage. But with that, that shows that we have both the knowledge and the connections to funding sources, both on the state and federal level. We have the creativity to leverage this funding. We have, as I've shown earlier, the depth of the staff with 500 people in tow that we can pull in if any situation arose that we needed to. We have a lot of experience in writing, securing, administering, seeing grants all the way through to the end. And at the end of the day, that's just going to make y'all's process that much more efficient and effective when it comes to making a decision on where to spend your money. So having that kind of local knowledge does definitely help. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this for the sake of time, but ARPA, y'all have heard over and over again how it can be spent. So there's a lot of avenues we've already mentioned that we'll look into. But one of the things that's most important to us is how you leverage it. And I've already mentioned the 50-50 grant that you can see a bullet for there, but also there's some low to moderate income and human health, safety, and welfare issues that this community has. Think about over by our office, for that matter, on 22nd and 23rd Avenue and 26th Street, where stormwater gets into the sanitary sewer and backs into toilets and showers and tubs. And at the end of the day, that needs to be repaired, and we know how to repair it. And I'll show you in a minute some things that we have over the years that we plan with Light and Water to help fix that. Well, if you only have $5 million and you have a $15 million issue, let's take that to the state and let's see that there's some life, health, safety, welfare issues we need to repair. And in low to moderate incomes of our community, and I think they're going to have a heart for that and an ear for that, definitely. We also have, obviously I've mentioned already, our local partners, Columbus Light and Water in the county, that have needs, and also other local partners such as nonprofits. But then also the last bullet here is a confidential way we're helping our clients, in which we feel like we can leverage this money 6 times what you currently have allocated. For intent purposes, we don't like to put it out there because this is a competition for money. And at the end of the day, you put out your game plan, somebody else is going to wear it out on top of you, right? And so we would love to sit down with you and talk to you about if y'all are so led, for ways to leverage that money even that much further through an idea that we have that, again, we're helping both our communities do and don't want necessarily our competition to have in their playbook. So this here's a list I won't spend time on, but I referenced earlier. This is a list of $50 million of improvements just for light and water that we know are needed in this community. One other example I'll give you is the city annex in 2015, and by law, you are supposed to have extended that water and sewer in the areas of annexation. That has not been done yet, and that is a multi-million-dollar facet that needs to be tackled. And again, it goes a lot of times in these low to moderate income areas of the city that need to be helped as well. And so this is just a small listing of the things that we know are top priorities for light and water. And when we sat in the room with light and water and the prior administration, obviously the city has priorities as well. And we think we have ways that we can make this money also to tackle some of the city's priorities. Again, going back to some of the ways that we will leverage this funding, as I mentioned in the previous slide. So in closing, there's a few ways that, reasons I feel like that our team is better positioned for the city in order to leverage our ARPA funding. We're local and we're knowledgeable. We've been here for over 40 years, both serving the city and Columbus Light and Water as their engineer of record. We're responsive. If y'all call, we're going to be here. There's no, let's set up a meeting in 2 or 3 days, or I'll be there in 2 or 3 hours. We're here. We have multiple people here on staff that will help you. We're recognized experts in our field. Again, the only firm in the engineering news record that's in this state in the top 500 at 206, and a regional partner in the Southeast, one of the larger firms in the Southeast. Our partners behind us, Grace Swope, Governor Barber, Kathy, Brenda, their team is well recognized. Brenda's even local for that matter. And so we feel like from the compliance side, we have a great partner to work with us and be that third party oversight for y'all. Relationships do matter, especially on governmental matters, and we feel like we have those at all levels of government. And then finally, we're a community partner. At the end of the day, I know when y'all show up every day, y'all want your picture above the fold in the paper to be about positive things, and I've got to live with that too. So when I go to church and I go to the grocery store, or whatever comes with this money, I've got to live with it, because this is my hometown too. So it's going to be something that from a community standpoint, we're going to take to heart and try to get as much out of this community as we can. So with that, I'll close and ask if there's any questions.
Thank you, Kevin. I do want to go back to something you mentioned about leveraging this money. Since Arpa was announced, that's the word I've been hearing from so many people, is the importance of leveraging this money, because it's not often we get this type of money. The other thing that I've heard when we were on the coast this summer with the Mississippi Municipal League, the lieutenant governor said that municipalities needed to become best friends with their local board of supervisors, because the county is receiving more money than we are in this process. And the thing that we've talked a lot about is building a closer relationship between the city and the county, and trying to leverage these dollars the best way we can from state and federal matching dollars. If y'all were selected to work with us on this, do you and how would you go about trying to help us work with the county maybe to come together with ideas that could be more beneficial? One of the things that we're working on doing right now is setting up a meeting of the City Council and the Board of Supervisors with the local Mississippi delegation before they head back to Jackson, to try to make sure we have our ducks in a row and we're all working from the same page. And this could include working with Columbus Light and Water. What I'm interested in is trying to build a team within the city and Lowndes County too, because we all have, there's a lot of important areas that we can use this money for. But we also know we have to be very careful because it's federal dollars, and we can't. And is it true that the final proposal of how this money can be spent is still yet to come down? Is that correct? And how would you? So that's a long question, mainly a big comment. But I'm really interested in hearing what your thoughts are of how we could potentially, and should we try to work with the Board of Supervisors and the Light and Water as we come up with an overall plan? Because, and I'll say this too, you and I've talked about this. Y'all have helped the city with plans before, and one of the big problems we've had in the past is there's never been funding always for those plans. You get the plans together, but then there's no funding to actually get them in place. That's not what we want to do with this. We want to make sure we've got a solid plan and we've got the finances and we're leveraging this as much as we can. So.
Sure. I'll address a few points I guess you had in there. As I mentioned earlier, we're already talking with the county and Light and Water on some other initiatives that they have. Supervisor Jeff Smith down Highway 69 has had a need for some sewer extension down there. We're already at the table. They called us. We've met with them on a couple occasions and are moving forward with that. So to some degree, that's already moving forward. But we've let them know, obviously, there's some cart before the horse issues financially that we think if they could wait a minute, they can leverage that money that much further of their own. Having said that, I have already talked with other county officials unofficially, offered our services, but also understand that as they said, they have their own engineer as well, and I completely respect that. And so, but if there's any way we can help, we will be there for them. But obviously, being local, Jay Fisher sits in the row right behind me at church, so I know him well. So with that, we won't have a problem coming together and meeting with county officials or any conglomerate y'all want to put together to talk. So it's however we can help inform what things can and can't be done, but also help guide you to implementation of the things you want to see done.
Let me ask you this too. Do you think it's possible for us to work as a team with the county? And have y'all seen this happening in any other areas of the state where the city and the counties are coming together?
Yeah, we have a lot of our clients. Counties are in a unique situation, kind of like the state. They don't have water and sewer systems necessarily that they can fund, so they have to do interlocal agreements with outside water and sewer agents, and there's still not a ton of those. And so with that, they're having to work with cities who normally have, as I've shown earlier, a lot of need. Mm-hmm. And so to leverage that fund, to get at least 50-50 money, which we feel like, again, you could get more than that. But it's imperative, I think, to stretch it out. I do know that the county has other priorities in their industrial park and some places that they have some true need as well that they think is a priority for them. And so, again, we feel like there's a way that you can take this money, and I know you keep hearing water and sewer, but you can take that and leverage it in a different direction to where not only can they help the water and sewer agents that are throughout the county and the city, but also probably get some monies back to them that would also help them leverage it in some different directions that would be beneficial to them.
What type of timeline do y'all think we should be on if you're selected?
Well, we would start immediately. There's a lot of needs, and in my opinion, there's always more needs than there is money. There's no reason to delay.
And remind us, how long do we have before we can spend this?
believe it's a couple of years now, so you have plenty of time. No, that's just to plan it, to obligate it, if you will. I believe you have
Yeah.
4 years before you have to spend it. Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah, so 2 years to obligate, 4 years to spend it. So, which again, in the grand scheme of, if you're talking $5.6 million is not, but I don't think we're talking that. I think we're talking a lot bigger number. But still, that's not impossible to spend. So y'all spent $5 million on paving in less than a year, well, almost a year in the city, but nonetheless, that's just an example.
Okay, I'm going to be quiet. Does the council have any other questions?
Mr. Stafford, I hear what the mayor is saying, working with other identities or the county or the supervisor or whatever, but my main concern is the city of Columbus, okay? That's my main concern. You done lived here, you done been on north side, you done rode through south side, you done been out in East Columbus. You know the areas where we got these problems at. We got some major problem with flooding inside the city, okay? How can you help us? I'm not saying solve all the issues. I know we're talking millions and millions of dollars, but how can we start chopping at it some? What can you put in place to help us with some of this flooding inside the city limits?
So one aspect, from a flooding perspective, 72 is the last time y'all have had an updated master drainage plan. I've been asking for years to take that master plan and have it updated and reprioritized, because what was done in the 70s is not still true today. It needs to be brought up to today's standards, and to your point, that will help prioritize where your worst areas are. Now, granted, some things have been tackled. Don't get me wrong. It hadn't laid on the shelf forever. It's the first thing Casey and I pull out when we have issues, to see what's out there that's pre-existing that we know we may have issues with, or to find out what's there. But to go back to your point, to prioritize that and then start drawing lines and put priorities where the funding matches for. And granted, you may come back and say, well, we also have potable water. We also have sewer issues, like I referenced on 22nd, 23rd Avenue North. And so those have to be discussed through and see what's more important. Is it just a stormwater issue from flooding, and is it applicable necessarily in the letter of the law? Because like the mayor said, it's not final yet. Originally, that was not even in the language, and last it came out was that the had to apply with the Clean Water Act, which sometimes goes back to you can't address water quantity, you have to address stormwater quality. So, and again, that's still a ruling. I hope they relax a little bit, but nonetheless, that's potential for stormwater may be off the table once we get there. But that's where our legal team comes into play. But regardless, we can update those plans, and the same difference as we do for Columbus Light and Water, where we prioritize where they need to rehab their water and sewer systems as they go annually and have to budget for those rehabs. We do the same thing for y'all.
I got a question as well. I noticed that you stated that in some of it we can get like really up to 6 times the amount. I've been doing some research myself, like what like if we do, just throwing out numbers, a quote, a $20 million project for sewer, and we got $5 million here, and we get $5 million match from the state, but then we also got FEMA and MEMA. How do they play a part in that as well? How would that, like, would you be able to qualify and get more money through that?
Depends on the situation and the program that they have available. So we have obviously applied for BRAC grants through MEMA. That's a drainage issue and somewhat of a sewer issue, but nonetheless, south of College Street, it's just one example of a large project. It's about $5 million we recently applied for. But to your point, there are several programs that can be leveraged, and that's part of that we would like to discuss with y'all, that you can free up some of this money. You can't match federal with federal, but you can free up some of the name tags on money creatively, and we would like to discuss with y'all ways to do that so that you can use and leverage money in a different direction where it's no longer qualified as federal anymore, and you can use it for, let's just say, seed funds for a 80-20 grant, for instance, which all of a sudden that's one way you can stretch your money from times 5 alone, much less the match that the state's promising. You get me to say a whole lot more than I wanted to say, by the way. That's okay.
Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
No, thank
we
y'all,
appreciate the
definitely.
presentation, and the report that you sent us earlier was very thorough. We appreciate that, and we appreciate all that you've done for the city of Columbus thus
Thank
far.
y'all.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Okay, now we have Ahmad Al-Turk of Wagner Engineering to present.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, thank you all for inviting us to come and make a presentation to you about ARPA and really how can ARPA and other related funding programs can actually transform the city for the future. So I want to first introduce my colleague, Ayad Tawfiq. He is our East Area Manager here for the area. Many of you probably already met him. So we're going to go through a number of items here on the. Thank you. So the first thing, I guess, is just want a quick introduction to Wagner Engineering. You know, we've been doing engineering business and related services from planning to economic development, community development, you know, a lot of information technology, disaster recovery work, really throughout the state of Mississippi and southeast and surrounding states as well. So what we want to talk about today is really have a better understanding of what ARPA is. You know, we're focusing a lot on primarily the funding that you're going to be receiving locally and what we can leverage with the state. But there's a lot more to ARPA than just the state and local components as well. So we're going to also talk about how we can leverage ARPA funds, and I'll give you some examples of how we're going to do this. I want to talk a little bit about the city of Columbus. Really, we've been doing a lot of studying over the last year about what the conditions of Columbus historically, what has been the assets of Columbus, what are the weaknesses, and how you can leverage those assets into really strengthening Columbus for the future and transferring the community to becoming a more progressive community for the future. Then we're going to quickly talk about Wagner representative experience, giving you some examples of activities that we've done. And then finally, we close with why we believe Wagner Engineering is the most suitable firm to support you in this transformation effort. So talking about ARPA, have this bill that passed back in March of this year had almost about $1.9 trillion. The numbers that you hear is that $362 billion was actually allocated to state and local funding, and this is where you're going to be getting your funds from, and then what the state is going to get their funding from. But again, what I guess people don't miss here is that you have roughly about $1.5 trillion that are not allocated to state and local government under ARPA. So there's significant programs that you can also access outside of what you're doing there, and outside leveraging it from the state, which I will talk about in a few minutes as well. So the deadline to commit all the funds is going to be December 31st, 2024. And then you have to spend all the funds by December 31st, 2026. So basically you have 5 years to actually plan, execute the projects, and complete them, to meet the ARPA requirements. So this chart here is going to illustrate the $362 billion for local and state government. Out of this, basically the state of Mississippi is roughly going to be getting around $6 billion. $1.8 billion is what the state is going to get to spend on the same activities the local government is going to be doing. $429 million is going to go to higher education. $166 million is going to go to broadband. $577 million going to go to counties. $258 million for smaller cities. $97 million for metro cities like Jackson and Hattiesburg and other communities. And $1.6 billion is going to go through K through 12. So again, we're focusing primarily on the $5.8 million that Columbus is going to be receiving and the $11.36 million that the county is going to receive. But again, the state can pass some of their $1.8 billion to cities and counties as well. So that's part of the leveraging, but there's a lot more to the leveraging than just that component here. So what is allowable to be used? Those funds can be used for. You can respond to the COVID-19 public health emergency. You can reduce the negative impact of the pandemic on local economies. You can spend it on public housing and housing assistance. You can cover premium pay to workers performing essential tasks during the pandemic. You can cover government revenue losses incurred due to the pandemic. And then, of course, the investment in infrastructure we discussed, which include water, stormwater, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So I want to spend a little bit more time about stormwater, because obviously this is an issue that is extremely critical to the city of Columbus. You have major flooding every time it rains, and it's been ongoing for decades. Stormwater is actually allowed under the Act. If it improves the water quality of impaired streams, you can actually qualify it. And we've been working, for example, with Rankin County and all of the municipalities within the county, really for the last 2 or 3 years, in development of a watershed program for the county. And when ARPA funds actually passed, we had the attorneys, we contacted the U.S. Treasury Department, and we actually met with the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality to make sure that stormwater actually qualifies. And as a result of this, the county actually dedicated $20 million out of $30 million for drainage improvements. We were able to, about a month and a half or 2 months ago, we actually met with the Lieutenant Governor, and the county made a presentation to them about stormwater issues. And the Lieutenant Governor basically said that this is the best presentation that they had in the whole state, because they were very prepared, and he's basically willing and requested that they actually submit a request for $30 million to match their $20 million. Also, we met with the Speaker of the House on this effort, and he was equally very enthusiastic and supportive of the Rankin County effort, and indicated that stormwater is actually a component that can be also utilized in this effort. And now I'll talk a little bit more about how we also leverage it with other funding. So for example, I think Mr. Pierre, you mentioned the issue about FEMA there. So there is a building resilience grant that FEMA actually does called BREAK grant. We're actually in the process now of completing a grant to FEMA for $24 million to actually match those programs for Rankin County. We also had $2 million we received from the state legislators last year through the bond program that really had even before ARPA. So out of a $120 million program, they potentially could actually receive over $70 million probably within the next few months. So that's why we're going to spend a little more time about this. We'll talk a little bit more about it when we go to our experience. And also, finally, I guess broadband infrastructure is also an eligible amount. It's an eligible amount for you to do it locally within your own funding. But also there's other avenues. So the state is actually dedicating $200 million out of their additional ARPA appropriation for broadband. So there's other sources. We're currently working with Madison County. Madison County has about $20 million effort. And we're actually evaluating 3 different activities that they wanted to spend their ARPA money in. One is actually providing broadband in the rural part of the eastern part of the county. The other one is providing wastewater services in the western part of the county. And then the last one is actually dealing with their stormwater management activities. All of those 3 elements are actually eligible, and they want to distribute. We're in the process of helping them distribute the funds among those 3 entities or 3 programs, and then try to leverage them with other state and federal resources inside ARPA and outside of ARPA as well. So here we talked about the other ARPA funding. So we talked about there's the $360 billion that goes to local and state government that you're going to be receiving your $5.8 million from. There's the remaining amount of this $1.5 trillion that a lot of people are not talking about. This includes direct financial assistance. There was a lot of tax credit and other elements that actually went to many of the citizens in the United States. This item, obviously, the cities are not eligible for because it's distributed to individuals. But other items like assistance to individuals and families, some elements of those you can actually apply for. Education and childcare is another element. Health is another element. Transportation, like transit and other components, is $40 billion for this. And there's a few other programs. So again, you apply separately for those ARPA programs outside of your allocation and the state allocation. So again, we're talking about leveraging ARPA city funding, and a lot of people use leveraging ARPA funds. I guess really This is a terminology that have been utilized by Wagner Engineering well before Arpa actually came about. We have a very robust federal and state funding assistance program to our clients. We have an office in Washington, D.C. that actually spends significant amount of time reviewing policy, researching legislation, understanding really what's coming in the pipeline. And we have secured hundreds of millions of dollars to our clients over the last 10 years of funding before all of these programs like ARPA and the infrastructure bill program happened. We were successful in accomplishing this before the trillions of dollars that currently the federal government is spending. So this really can allow us to leverage existing programs, but also leverage the state and recovery funds, other ARPA funds, and of course the recently passed 1.2 trillion infrastructure program. There is significant funding as well for transportation elements, for water, wastewater, stormwater, many other programs that are under this funding vehicle. The proposed 1.75 trillion Build Back Better Act, if it passes Congress, this is also another huge opportunity, particularly for social infrastructure activities. There's existing state and federal funding program. I mentioned earlier, we can go through EPA, you can go through NRCS, many other programs. Line item appropriation. We've been very successful in actually getting this until actually Congress stopped line item appropriation in 2010. Last year, actually, line item appropriation was reintroduced. So again, you can go to your legislators and request funding for that element. And finally, philanthropic support. There's many foundations that actually can leverage all of these resources as well. So there's many ways that you can actually leverage those funds. So really what is the first step is to actually identify your needs. And again, you identify your needs by first understanding what are the requirements. So typically when we, we have probably now already about more than half a dozen clients that we're actually working and assisting in with the ARPA funding. The first thing is we actually go through an educational workshop. So you can fully understand what is allowed, what is not allowed, so you can make informed decisions about what you need to be doing. So we analyze, we innovate, and try to figure out how you can manage all this process and basically significantly increase the amount that is needed for your community. And then finally you act and begin the process here. So again, the first thing is to gather data. There might be some things that you might be eligible for, but it might have some conditions. For example, COVID-19 expenses. You need to quantify this. Government budget impact. Whether your budget has went down after 2019 or not. So many other items that we have to look into, and we also look at what are the weaknesses and the threats that were caused because of the pandemic, and what the opportunities and strengths that will allow you to recover from it. And obviously, community impact and community involvement is going to be a critical component of this element as well. So you innovate, you figure out what does the full recovery look like? What is it that you actually will like to see in the next 5 or 10 years? This is a transformational opportunity that you need to start thinking clearly about what your goals and objectives are. Updating your comprehensive plan, doing a planning for ARPA, but don't only limit it to ARPA. Trying to figure out what all your needs. And I can tell you, many of the planning documents that I've seen, even the one for Columbus, the comprehensive plan that you have and the drainage plan that's 50 years old now, they don't quantify what the cost of those improvements. Basically, they tell you they give you a list of about 20, 30 items. You don't know what the cost associated with it, and you really don't develop a strategy of how to develop the funding that are needed to actually make those projects reality. So this is really what distinguishes our approach, is actually having strategic approaches to make sure that you're going to be successful in implementing the programs that you have, so your plan does not collect dust on the shelf.
Let me hold you just for one second. Is there somebody here that can turn the air down in here? A lot of people are fanning, and I don't want anybody to pass out in here from the heat. You got it? Okay. I saw you, Jeff. I saw you fanning. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. So again, the first step is to prepare a final recovery plan. So again, what we do this in actually 2 steps. Because of the timing, you have a very critical time right now because you really need to be making a request to the county and to the state legislators within the next probably 60 to 90 days. So we will have an action item, and because legislative session is going to start in January, and most of the appropriation is probably going to be done in March. So if you're not in a position to complete something in the short term, while you're working on the longer term activities. So really we will go through the workshop with you, trying to look at what is allowed and what's not allowed. And we maybe pick the top 3 or 4 or 5 priorities that you have and develop a strategy of how we can approach the state legislators to make sure that you are successful in your request. And then the detailed implementation plan, you'll have more time to actually go through this to look at it more comprehensively than just the local ARPA matching with the state, to look at what other funding sources are available that we described earlier. And then finally, you need to identify your compliance team, whether the compliance needs to be done internally or externally. You need to define this. And we've done compliance of federal programs. We've managed over $9 billion of federal funds through our disaster recovery program. We managed the Katrina work for the state of Mississippi, which was between the housing program and the water and sewer program was almost $1.5 billion. We managed a similar program in the state of Louisiana. And we did not have, and they had a number of audits, and we did not have a single dollar of clawback. Again, because we want to make sure that we are protecting your interest in this process. So the compliance process, you have to first understand what the rules and requirements are. You have to prepare as if you're going to be audited. You might not be audited, but you have to prepare everything that you're doing as if you're going to be audited, which means that your systems of tracking, tools, and record keeping has to be flawless. So we can help you provide you whatever information that you need to make sure that this is done. And it has to be a transparent process here that will be available to anybody who asks for it. So again, I'm not going to go through the list of all of the items, but you have to comply from the issues of procurement to the Davis-Bacon Act to the financial management compliance, record keeping, a lot of other elements that you go through in this process here. So I want to talk more now really about the city of Columbus. I'm going to spend a few minutes here because I think it's critically important for us to understand historically where the city has been and understand the moment we are in really the United States history. So what you see on top here, there's some quotes from President Biden. And really what he's talking about is what is the administration's priority is to ensure that there is economic justice, that there's environmental justice, that basically that the federal government has responsibility of lifting people who have been left behind in the past, or lifting particularly communities of color, communities have high poverty levels. So this is basically 3 quotes that addresses those issues from an administration priorities. So if you look at the city of Columbus, for example, over the last 30 years, your population has dropped by 16%. If you look at the per capita income, your total per capita income is $24,000. The African American community's per capita income is $17,000. The white is $40,000. Your median household income is $36,000, and you have almost 28% of your population is below the poverty line. So almost 1 out of 3 people in Columbus are below the poverty line. If the conditions and the demographics of Columbus does not fit the administration, I don't know what will. So what this tells us is that if you have the ingenuity, if you have plans, if you know exactly what you want, and you develop a plan that you can actually explain in this process, you're going to have a very high probability of actually securing significant funding to transform Columbus for the future. So again, it's not only about ARPA. There's many other programs that I described earlier that we've been involved in for years, even before ARPA or the infrastructure bill passed. So this is an opportunity of a lifetime that really the city of Columbus needs to take full advantage of. And we are prepared to partner with you to make sure that you realize the future potential that the citizens of Columbus and the leadership of Columbus desire. So I guess Columbus has many, many assets. You have natural beauty, you have historical places and structures. You have the University of Women, which my daughter has been teaching there for about 10, 12 years now, so I'm glad to have a connection here. The Columbus Air Force Base, you have 4-lane highway accessibility with Highway 82 and 45, the Tin-Tum waterway, and also the diversity of the community. This is extremely important. The diversity of the community actually brings a lot of richness to the community. The African American Heritage Blues and Blues Trail, the historic home tours, the arts and cultural destinations. So you have a lot of great things in Columbus. So the question, I guess, if you have all these assets, why is the population declining? Why you have the poverty level? Why all of these issues that I described earlier exist? So I'm going to just, and again, this is not being critical here, but you had a comprehensive plan that really have not been used. The plan I guess is dated now. It probably was done in 2012 and 13. And if you are not planning as a community, I guess the saying says, if you don't have a plan, anywhere can get you there. And that's really what's happening. It's basically you've been reacting all of this time instead of being proactive in really determining what your destiny needs to be. The planning needs to include land use and zoning, community and economic development component, transportation, all modes of transportation, and also social programs, which many comprehensive plans don't address. How do we address the issues of poverty, with crime, incarceration, health, education, others? These are all critical components that really have not been even addressed in the previous plan, but this should be considered. One of the issues, I guess, that many communities fail is that they think is if you help the least among us, that basically this is going to bring the community down. If you lift the people who need the assistance up, it's going to help the entire community. So this is really our focus. The issues of economic and environmental justice is going to be an important element of really how you can transform the community for the future. Development cost and funding strategy. Again, most of the plans that many communities do, and the reason they sit on the shelf, is they don't really have a comprehensive strategic approach of how you can leverage the funding to allow you to successfully implement those programs that you have. So you'll find lists and lists of projects and activities that need to be done, and they might do 1 or 2 or 3, 4% of it. Drainage is a huge area, a huge problem in Columbus. It has been for years. And I know my daughter tells me every time it rains, when she goes to the W, there's a lot of problems over there. Just as one example of this. This is a solvable problem. And I'll tell you, Wagner Engineering has done more in the stormwater management area than anybody probably in the Southeast. In the last 3 years, we've completed watershed, county-wide watershed program that include all the cities within the counties for five counties in the state: DeSoto, Jackson, Hancock, Rankin, and Madison County. With all the cities within the county. This is a county-city effort. Through NRCS, we completed 26 watersheds in the last 3 years. So again, we have deep experience in this area of how really to not only plan appropriately for it. And many communities, what they see when they're talking about drainage, they focus on localized problems. So if you have a culvert that needs to be expanded, you go and expand the culvert. This might or might not solve the problem, because a lot of times, water does not know political boundaries. And it could be that your water is coming from outside areas. For example, the watershed that you have, that Columbus is in, actually goes all the way to Alabama. So a lot of the flow actually come, when I looked at the drainage maps just to look at what the impact is, things that you might not even control. So that's really why we actually encourage a county-wide watershed program, because there's things that you are doing. Today, we're working with the city of Canton and with Madison County. The city of Canton has about, and Canton is a lot smaller than the city of Columbus, have about $80 million drainage problems. Madison County as a whole has about $120 million problem on top of this, what Canton has. More than 50% of the problem that Canton has did not originate in Canton. It originated in Gluckstadt and Madison and Ridgeland. Actually, the flow is coming from the south to north. So as urbanization happened, as development happened, particularly because they have very poor ordinances that they did not detain the flow, all of this excess flow is coming to Canton. So again, we need to study it beyond just the localized problems. Whether it's a maintenance issue or expansion of culverts, you have to look beyond your political boundaries to do it. And this is really why our county city programs that we've developed over the last 3 years for 5 counties across the state of Mississippi has extremely been successful in this effort. And finally, really this issue of constituent services. This goes to the issue of timely responding to citizens' responses. And again, we've talked to many businesses, we talked to citizens in the community over the last year. This is an area that really requires improvement. So what is the suggested solutions here? So the first step is to develop an Arpa recovery plan. And again, this is an interim plan just to focus on the areas related to the state funding support within the next 60 days. But there's areas that you have to do on a longer term basis, for the next 12 months. You have to develop a long-term strategic planning and evaluation. This includes updating the comprehensive plan or in many areas actually maybe having a new comprehensive plan. A watershed-based stormwater management plan that we strongly encourage you to actually collaborate with the county on this effort. Doing an efficiency and effectiveness evaluation for the community. Doing a transportation plan and a community and economic development plan. And some of those elements could be part of the comprehensive plan. Concurrently with all of this, once you define what the cost associated with each one of them is a funding strategy and implementation. This funding strategy is going to be critical to look at not only ARPA funding, but looking at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers funding, looking at funding from EPA, funding from the NRCS, and a list of host of agencies that we have interacted with over the last 20 years. So the ARPA and related programs implementation, and again, this is all of this work has to be completed by December 31, 2026. So really, you don't have a lot of time, particularly when you start dealing with infrastructure projects. By the time you do the planning, you do the design, if there is any acquisition of property, it takes time to go through acquiring property. Then you're going to have to advertise and go through a bidding process and going through construction. So a lot of people say, well, we got plenty of time, it's 5 years. Really, you don't. So again, I want to encourage you to be timely in this response, particularly to position, at least in the first stage, is to be ready for your discussion with the state legislators. So I want to shift now and maybe talk a little bit more about Wagner experience. So obviously, ARPA is a new program. It's actually just only about 6 months old. Actually, the interim rule was not published until May, and although it's not final until now, the U.S. Treasury has not issued the final rule. But for the last few months, we've actually been working with the cities of West Point, Pelahatchie, Sardis, Brooksville, Crawford, and Canton, and we're working with Rankin, Claiborne, and Madison County in supporting of their ARPA programs. So I want to give you, in addition to our ARPA experience, I want to give you maybe highlights of some of the experiences we have with some of the communities we served. And again, this is just to give you a sense of really who Wagner Engineering and how we function, and how we actually work with communities to help them develop and grow, to achieve really the goals and aspirations that they and their constituents have. So we don't force our ideas on you. Really, we want to understand what your needs are, and our job is to actually facilitate making sure that you're successful in whatever you decide your vision and goals and objectives are. So for the city of Ridgeland, we've been the consulting engineer for the city for almost 40 years. So I remember back, and I was a young engineer at the time, the city was roughly about 3,000 employees. Every aspect of development within the city of Ridgeland, Wagner Engineering had a hand into it. From bringing North Park Mall to four-laning many highways across the city, to actually doing a lot of economic development activities, to building a parkway and to open up development in the west part of the city that actually created over $2 billion of commercial development and retail development on that corridor. Today, the city of Ridgeland is almost 26,000 population and ranks in the top 100 livable communities in the country. So again, this is, and I give him the credit, the reason for all of this. The city of Ridgeland does have a comprehensive plan. They have a transportation plan. They have, and they update all of these plans. They have a water and wastewater plan, master plan, and we update it for them every 5 years. And the reason we update it is because the program of work that they have for the 5-year period, basically we've accomplished 90% of what's in that plan. Significant funding, probably in the well over $100 million for a small community like this that they received over the last 20 years because of our involvement in this. Rankin County Watershed-based Stormwater Management Program. I alluded to this earlier, but I want to kind of talk to you about how we leverage funding here, where you had a county that actually had the vision to start a county-wide program in collaboration with all the cities within the county. Started about 2.5 years ago. And the way it started is by the county made an initial investment of about $700,000 to actually do a county-wide watershed plan. Immediately after this plan is finished, we went to the state legislators and presenting it to them. They received through their bond program $2 million appropriation. This is before Arpa started. And of course now I mentioned to you earlier that we talked about getting $10 million authorization from the Water Resource Development Act. We're applying for $24 million grant from FEMA and MEMA through the BRIC program. And then, of course, they're leveraging the state Arpa funds and their local funds as well. The town of Sardis is a small community of 1,500 people. For some of you that probably went to school at Ole Miss, this other school that I know in this area probably, many are probably Bulldogs here. But the ones that went there, Sardis Lake, I went to school back in the 70s over there, so Sardis Lake was a destination for a lot of the students in that area. But this is the second largest man-made lake in the world, Sardis Lake. It's 5 miles away east of the city of Sardis. You receive over 1.2 million visitors on Sardis Lake annually. Now the single one actually spend the night because there's no accommodations for them. You can't buy a hamburger on the lake, or you couldn't before. Now you can because of the development we had. All of this is a Corps of Engineers facility. So we had developed a plan with the city because basically they wanted to try to transform their economy, to actually build a recreation and tourism complex and destination resort on the lake. So we were successful in actually getting first a 1,000-acre lease from the Corps of Engineers, which is extremely difficult to get on a flood control facility. The second step, we were able to get them over $10 million of appropriation to actually dredge the lake so they can dredge it for a marina in that area. We had a private investment coming and put a marina there and a restaurant. And now we're in the process of actually transferring that property. We're working with our congressional delegates to transfer the property from the Corps of Engineers to the city of Sardis to do residential development, hotel, conference facility, and equestrian club, and other development. So again, this is how the city of Sardis wanted to see it take the asset that they had 6 miles away and transform it to benefit really the whole region, and not only there. But the reason they did this is because they started with proper planning. So this is really the point I want to impart. Planning is an extremely important element for you to actually determine where you want it to go. The Sora County Regional Utility Authority. This is because of the significant growth as a Memphis bedroom community. The county and all of the cities in DeSoto County decided to actually form a regional utility authority, which we've been the engineer for the last 20 plus years. We were able to secure well over $100 million of federal funding for their program, for interceptors and wastewater treatment facilities in this area. And currently, in addition to this, they have $75 million authorization through the Water Resource Development Act that they're going to start drawing from it, working with the Corps of Engineers in Memphis. The City of Meridian Efficiency and Effectiveness Evaluation. This is a new mayor and many new board members that basically felt that they are not serving their constituents properly, that the response time is not good, the maintenance of the ditches is not right, they're not picking garbage from the streets and all this other stuff. So they commissioned us actually to do an efficiency and effectiveness study, to study what is going well, what areas of improvement, what policies and procedures they have, and we've completed that study just recently for the city. And finally, really, and again, this is just a small example of hundreds of projects that we've done across the state. But we managed and administered over $9 billion of disaster recovery projects in Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Florida, and New Jersey. All of those are federal funds that came from FEMA and from CDBG. And all of them, like I mentioned earlier, there was no clawbacks in any of those activities that we were involved in. So finally, in closing, before we open the floor to questions, so I guess why you should consider selecting Wagner Engineering to be your team for this effort. Wagner Engineering does a lot more than plan and design infrastructure. Our focus is to transform communities. And to transform communities, you don't just need engineers. We have all kinds of disciplines. We have transportation engineers, environmental engineers, water and sewer engineers. This is a core business of Wagner Engineering. This is what we started with 45 years ago. But to transform communities, you need planners, you need economic developers, you need financial management, you need accountants, you need funding specialists. All of these resources Wagner Engineering have in-house. So we really offer a comprehensive solution to actually transform communities beyond just doing the engineering and design work. We strive for equity, diversity, and inclusion. And this is internally within the company and also externally in everything we're doing. The company is probably the most diverse engineering company in the state of Mississippi. Well over 60% of the company is brown and black people and women, probably close to 70%. This goes from the board of directors to the management team to the staff. And again, the reason we're doing this is for two reasons. One is we want to be a reflection of the state we're in. But more importantly, diversity brings different points of view, which actually strengthen the company. And as a result of this deliberate effort that we went through over the last 5 years, we more than doubled in size in 5 short years because of this diversity program that we've developed. And again, we are focused equally on issues of equity and justice externally as we are internally as well. So I've talked earlier about have successfully leveraged community resources. This is a unique talent that Wagner Engineering has developed over the last 45 years, is to figure out how and that's part of the reason why we have a DC office. So we use all of the resources. We have a group dedicated for strategic services. The only thing they do is to look at bills that they come up, evaluate them, making sure that, like the infrastructure bill that just passed. We had a team that actually looked at every single opportunity that the community need for funding. We've been monitoring it for the last 6 months as they were deliberating this process here. We experience in the needs, challenges, and aspirations of local government. So, 90% or more of our business is local governments. Cities and counties is what we do best. This is what we understand, what we commit to actually do, because we understand really what your needs are and how we can serve you to allow you to meet your goals and objectives. Also, we are committed to the communities we serve. For example, a few years ago, we were fortunate to be selected for the city of Meridian. Now we have an office in Meridian. We have a very thriving group over there. Similarly, if we are fortunate to actually be selected by the city of Columbus, we will have an office in Columbus. We will be part of the community. We will be engaged to actually give back in any program that actually could advance the community in general. One of our project managers, his name is Stephen Thompson. Some of you probably met him. He's a CPA. He was actually the general manager for Canton Municipal Utilities. He's actually agreed to relocate to Columbus, and if we're selected for this work. And again, finally, we have over 45 years of proven track record of success. So again, this is not, when we're saying proven track record, this is not what Ahmad says because I'm biased for Wagner Engineering. I think the mayor asked us for references, and we gave the references to, and I hope that you've called our clients. So it's not what we say about ourselves. Really, we encourage you all to reach out. If some of you have already made the calls, that's wonderful. We want you to do this because we want you to hear unbiased view of what we've served our communities for the last 45 years. I'm confident of really the responses that you're going to get because we have served those communities in really significantly even exceeding their expectations in this process. So I want to again thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of you today, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Alturk. That was very thorough. Can you give us an idea of, if you're selected, what kind of cost will the city be looking at as far as paying your company to help us? How does that work?
Yeah, so again, it really depends on what services you need for the Arpa funds. Typically for the infrastructure programs, it's easy because if you're doing an engineering project, there's a certain percentage you get for design and a certain percentage for construction services. Planning services, again, we need to develop the scope jointly with you. I mean, what is it that you wanted to do? Do you want to update the comprehensive plan? There's a value for this. The Arpa initial needs assessment, there's a value for that component. If you need to do transportation plan, is a different element. If you wanted to do an efficiency and effectiveness study. So really what we need to do is to go through in the beginning and just sit down with the leadership and go through a workshop really to go through a lot more detail about the ARPA program, what works and what's allowable and what's not. Mm-hmm. And you all need to decide what the components are. And then, of course, we will process it for that area. But I can tell you in general, I don't like a lot of questions about cost because you can't compare apples to apples with the cost. What I really would like is to offer a different proposition, which is a proposition of value. So we are not the cheapest in the state, but I can tell you the return that you get on your investment, that's why the other clients that you probably talk to love to work with us, although we're not the cheapest. So it's not only about cost, it's really about value and what you get for that services that we offer.
Right. So if you're selected and we have a work session with y'all, but we would kind of have some idea of what this would cost.
Well,
as far
absolutely.
As, okay.
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Well, as we go through this process, we will give you a detailed scope and budget for each element that we're doing before we start.
Good. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about sometime in the state that we have a major drainage problem here, that it could be an adjacent state. So when I look at Columbus, it's kind of like a fishbowl. And Alabama's set higher, and when you have floods, water come, and if you're working in Mississippi and you have problems that come in from another state, which is Alabama, how do you work in conjunction with another state and be able to correct that problem?
So I'm going to give you the example we did in Madison County in the city of Canton. The city of Canton is exactly the same. It's in a low area, and all of the Madison County flow in the southern part where a lot of the urbanization is flowing to Canton. So we divided into two different areas. One within the city of Canton, there's areas of maintenance and issues of increased capacity of their drainage system itself that Canton is responsible for. In Madison County, what we are basically having improvement in their system and looking at probably creating of detention facilities that will actually detain the excess flow when it rains, so not as much water can come into it. So really you have to have all these combinations here. So most of the areas coming from the state of Alabama is rural areas. So we don't really know what the quantification of that component, but we have to study it to see what it is and then figuring out how we can detain that flow before it comes to you and create a problem. But also fix the problem that you have locally as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Alter, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
The presentations that we have, Joe, we'll be able to have those on the website and on Facebook, so citizens can look at these and, okay.
Yes, sir, they'll be up tonight.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving forward, council, our city department heads have submitted their monthly reports. Do you have any questions for our department heads? Chief?
Report on the number of tickets and the number dismissed.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, for the month of October, the police department wrote 649 tickets, and there were 11 dismissed.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief? If not, I'm going to ask Joe Dillon, our Public Information Officer, to come forward and take us through the board vacancies.
Mayor and council, tonight you don't have any. The next one will be at our next meeting on 1st of December. We have 3 weeks off because of the 5 Tuesdays.
Wait, Joe, I have a question. You say we have what now on the board appointment?
We have none for tonight. When we meet again in December on the 7th, you'll have 2 to consider. We're still taking applications on those at this time.
So zoning board and adjustments and appeals,
And the
and then also the city planning
City
commission.
Planning Commission.
Okay, do we have another board that somebody resigned, Joe?
Not that they've notified me of, sir. No, sir.
Yes, we do.
Who is that?
Mr. Bobby Caldwell resigned from the Columbus Housing Authority, I believe today, if I'm
From
not
what
wrong.
board?
Columbus Housing Authority.
From the housing.
Okay. That was
So that's a
me.
vacant board.
He's been sick and hasn't been able to attend some meetings, and he resigned today.
So we can take that up in the December 4th meeting as well.
I mean, I would think that it would be prudent to advertise like you do for other boards and take applications
We'll
and
go
give
ahead and-
time for people to apply.
We'll go ahead and add that to our website tomorrow so people can apply online, Mayor.
Another one that's coming up, Vice Mayor Mickens, is the solid waste too. That'll be on the next agenda. I think that replacement is at the end of December, so we have that one coming up as well. What I will remind the citizens to please go to the website and look at the opportunities we have. These boards are important to the community. It's important that we have, we like to have several applicants in the area to look at for these. Also, we're trying to get more information on the website about these particular boards and what they do and their responsibilities are. If you have any questions about that, you can contact City Hall or one of the council members.
And their residence has to be in the city of Columbus, correct?
Yes, they do. You have to live in the city to do it. And so I encourage you that live outside of the city to move on in so you can be a part.
They can't use an office address, they actually have to live in the city.
Yes, they have to live in the city. Yeah, you know, if you have a business here, that doesn't help, unfortunately, but yeah, so
And
come
actually,
on, move back
usually
in.
have to be a qualified elector too. I mean,
Yes. And we should have all those details on the website too.
Yes, sir. And we will be inviting these applicants to appear to you at that next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, it's cooling off. Do we have any items for citizen input, Joe?
No, sir. No one signed up for that. No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have our policy agenda, and we have a request for approval for billboard advertising. And so now I'll ask Mr. Leonard Busby to come forward, please, to address the council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me. My name's Leonard Busby. I'm from Laurel, Mississippi, and I had talked with the supervisors, and they have a piece of property over here on Highway 82, and they would like for us to try to develop it. And we was able to get a permit at one time several years back, and we wasn't able to get a state permit. Well, now some things have changed in how we do our measurements and stuff from gore points, and it should be allowed with the state, and we're coming back asking the city if we could get this permit again to do this off-premise sign. And in so doing, not only will we be doing Amber Alerts and special messages, for the supervisors and the county. They wanted to pass it on to the city as well. The mayor was at the meeting when we had it over there, and we would like to be able to pass that stuff on to the city as well. If you have emergencies, if you need to lock down a school, these type of things at no charge, we'll put in on a digital face. It would come up for 8 seconds and it would hold. It wouldn't be a moving message, but it would just be there. And we would like to offer that opportunity to the city as well at no charge with any public announcements that anybody might have that you would like for us to post. We won't post anything that's not coming from the city itself or from the county supervisors, but no adult entertainment or nothing like that will be posted on the sign as well. I just need to throw that in.
Yeah, we were all wondering about that. Thank you for clearing that up. And that's good. It really is good.
But I'd be glad to answer any questions I can. We do have some trees on our side of the fence that we'd like to cut. And with your permission, I could file and get this permit for a digital off-premise sign on the soccer fields property. I think y'all had a chance to look at the exhibits.
Yeah, y'all got that several weeks ago. Does anybody have any questions, or is there anything that we would need to do before we could vote on this?
Well, I think our ordinance, we have a sign ordinance. It specifies certain heights and with digital, certain luminosity, I believe. I hadn't looked at it in years. And I think there's a moratorium on off-premise billboard signs, so in order to pass that, you'd have to, at least, I would assume, repeal or grant an exception to the moratorium.
As far as the height and the square footage and the things that's in there, we would meet all those obligations, sir. But you're right, we'd have to get approval from the moratorium that's now in place.
Jeff, was anything else added in there for us bringing in new signs in the city in the past, did we put a limitation on that or anything?
There are height limitations, and on digital signs, we have a brightness limitation. I think there are some limitations that are applicable through MDOT. Can't be so close to an exit and that sort of thing, because it might distract drivers who are pulling off. I'm assuming that's not a problem with this sign
That is correct.
that you're talking about. So, I can't remember any other than those that are in our sign ordinance, except the moratorium, which if y'all are favorably inclined to allow in the billboard, you would need to grant a special exception or, repeal your moratorium. Yes, sir.
You recall the reason the previous council put in the moratorium? You recall that reason?
Well, I think they just wanted to reduce or at least keep billboard signs at the number that they were and not have a whole lot more of them, and to require billboards to be on the premise of the property where they're advertising, if there are any. That's my memory of what the thinking was.
When was that put in, Jeff? Do you remember?
I'd say 12 years ago, if I had to guess, maybe 10. It's been a long time.
If I can, in 2014, I believe, we were able to get it approved. We just didn't have all our information for the state at that time, and we wouldn't be able to get it approved by them, but the board did approve it at that time.
If they approved it then, wouldn't it still be approved, or did they put a time limit on it?
It is time.
They have a time limit on it?
Yes. Permits only last for like 6 months, I think, or a year.
Any other questions or thoughts?
I would ask that you please let me do it.
Would you need that in the form of a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we accept Mr. Busby planning for putting up a new sign out on 45.
It's
18?
82.
82.
Okay.
82.
So we would have to repeal the other one, is that correct, or how would we?
Nah.
If you don't repeal it, you'd need to grant a special exemption for that location.
Is that in your motion, a
Yes,
special
sir.
exemption?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Mickens to grant a special permission for Mr. Busby to put a new billboard on Highway 82 that the city would be able to use for advertising and in emergency purposes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, council. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Busby.
I'll let the supervisors know. They'll be glad to hear it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Busby. Safe travels back to Laurel. Okay, moving forward, we need to discuss and approve the hiring of one work program supervisor contingent upon a successful pre-employment physical and drug screen. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Beard. Do I have a second? Have a second from Councilman Green. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Discuss and improve engineering contract for CLCA's taxiway pavement rehabilitation project.
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Beard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Discuss and approve permission to advertise for bids for CLCA's taxiway pavement rehabilitation project.
So moved.
Have a motion from Councilman Beard. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second from Councilman Green. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Discuss and approve a 4-day work week for city employees. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We had discussed when this would take place. Mr. Matt, was it, did we get that straightened out?
It was Proclamation that wanted it to begin.
Turn on your microphone, so they can hear you.
It was brought to my attention that they wanted to begin in December instead of January. And I looked at the calendar. We need to begin it on the beginning of a pay period, so December the 6th.
December 6th.
I'll make a motion that we start on December 6th.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Jones and a second from Councilman Mickens. Do we have any discussion?
As far as court on that, the Friday that we close, how soon can we have something figured out for them to be able to take money or pay tickets online? Can they already do tickets online and stuff?
I don't think they're able to pay tickets online just yet, but we're working, is that, oh, Wendy? Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Councilman Jones, we are allowed to take them online. They can go on the webpage for the City of Columbus, and it's a link to take you to that process.
What about when they want to get reports? Can they do that online as well?
Now, I'm not for sure with the Records Department as of yet, but that would be something for Chief Shelton. But we are trying to come up with a plan that when we're closed on Fridays, that it'll be acceptable for them to drop off payments.
Okay.
So that means people could pay online and also have a drop box here, a secure drop box.
Yes, sir.
Very
If we
good.
can add that they can be able to access their records, and be able to print them out, or, pay a fee to be able to access their records that they need, like accident reports and all that stuff online as well.
Councilman Jones, accident reports, we can set it up in a system where they'll be able to go to e-crash and print out, but however, the regular incident reports that will still have to be done here. Records check would have to be done here. So the plan is, if we get to where we can set a specific time, if someone needs a record check or needs something additional, after our normal business hours, we'll set up a designated time that they can come and do it. And which would not cause any overtime. So maybe once a month on a Friday, we could have from 9 to 12, if someone needs that service, then they can come during that time. We'll publish that and let them know ahead of time.
Thank you, Chief. Any other discussion? We have a second on this motion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations to our city employees. I know they'll be thrilled for this. We're happy to be able to offer it to you. We should also point out that we're also looking at how this, and we will report this, how this will also save the city finances by doing this. So we're pleased that we were able to work this out. All right, next.
The county already does it for their.
Yes, they do. And we did before for how many years? 12 years, yes. Okay, discuss and approve the Columbus Light and Water Bond issue.
Mayor, I see my name is by this, but you have Jeff Smith, the attorney, and Trey Hairston of Butler Snow Law Firm, as well as Ms. Verdell in the audience, and I think they can explain the reason they're asking the city to pass it better than I could.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
If I might take just a second, my classmate that I graduated high school with has a birthday today, and her name's Jacqueline Shamo DeChico.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Jackie, I would sing, but I'm afraid it would clear the room, so we're just going to, yeah, now you can sing, Pierre. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be here. I'm not sure what all you want to hear. We have been working on this for over a year. This was the brainchild of Todd Gale, who we unfortunately lost on February the 12th of this year. And we've got Trey Harston, who is in the Butler Snow Law Firm, which you heard so much about a while ago. And Trey is actually from here, and I think he's got an uncle that still lives here. And we try to get him to move back, but
let's keep trying.
He can't make the money here. He makes Butler Snow and Jackson.
They could probably use an office here, still pay him from Jackson.
I think Reverend Mickens wanted perhaps to have somebody from the Light and Water, and I've probably been involved in this longer than anyone except Todd Gale. And I don't want to waste a lot of your time because I don't want to be like the engineers. And
Easy, they're still in the room, Counselor.
Well, I know Kevin. I know Kevin about as well as I do anyone. And Mr. Wagner used to work a lot with us in the legislature. The Light and Water Department has been working off and on. This was a brainchild of Todd Gale's, and we have been slow in doing any bond work. We've done a little bit of funding. We've always used Trey Harston with Butler Snow ever since he left the governor's office. Y'all may not remember, but he used to be the governor's lawyer. Didn't pay well enough, so he had to leave it.
I understand.
That's what happens when us Republicans get in control, you know.
I see why I like you.
He just keeps stepping in it, doesn't he? Why not? You know?
Well, I was a Democrat for 20 years, and then I either went to the dark side or I saw the light. I'm not sure. The bond issue is $8.7 million, and we've been working on it a good while, and Todd wanted to put together several projects so we could do it at just one time. And Trey will tell you it's $8.7 million. It's broken into 4 parts. The big part is fiber. Columbus Light and Water Department has been lucky. We've had aggressive board members. In 2006, we were able to buy what is called some dark fiber. We have done a ring around the city. Todd always called it a loop. We were able to do this in 2006. We rented half of the 96 fibers to Telepac, which is now C-Spire. That helped pay for everything. We have run the routing by the schools, and we have run it by public buildings for future use. We thought it might come into effect. What we need to do is we actually need to replace the fiber. It's first of all, it's not long enough any longer. And if you know anything about fibers, it's a big set of wires. They're called fibers. There's 96 of them, and we sold the bottom 48, and we've got 48. We have utilized those fibers for all of our departments. It's worked real well, but it's going to have to be repaired. It is 15 years old, and we've actually had to rent from Teletech to actually get some of the devices we have out in the field because we don't have enough fiber left. That's $3.6 million. We're also going to redo the electric warehouse, and it's $3.6 million. And what it would be, first of all, some of y'all are too young. I know the Reverend's too young to probably have been. That place was built in 1962. What it will do, it will create storage, because if you're familiar with the word supply chain shortages, we're very short. We want to, when we buy some items, we want to fill that thing up. We want to put a full electrical and mechanical system in there. We're going to have future employees that are going to work out of there. What we have is it's not good enough, and I don't mean to criticize my employer, but it really needs a lot of work. It's probably going to take over a year to do it. It may take a good while because it is a good undertaking, but it's something that's needed. And we've got some really good workers, and this will give them a place that they can actually have air conditioning. They can have conference rooms. We have too many people in the office there on 5th Street. And this would allow, and it's something that has been very exciting, I know, to everybody, that the cadre that works. Some of y'all probably remember when J. Jordan's office was known as Atwell Pennington's grocery store. I know Rusty probably does, because his mother used to shop there all the time. And it is something we've got listed for $675,000. We have already bought it, and Mike Burnson was able to get Jay to come down $100,000. What we're going to do is we're going to use it. We're going to put our IT in there. We're going to utilize it for several functions because we can make it ADA compatible, and I know your attorney realizes that if you're a public entity, you better be ADA compatible. This would allow us to do that. It needs some roofing and it needs some structural work, but it probably won't take the entire $675,000. And the final object, or the final entity, is an outage management system. And I've been in politics off and on since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and I know one thing we all get is complaints. And what this will do will really, I mean, I know when something goes wrong in the Light and Water Department, if they can't find one of the board members, they call y'all. Because I remember Mr. Henry Perkins told me one time he'd rather be a dog catcher than on the city council, because nobody gets more telephone calls than city council members. And,
well, the mayor might.
Well, you are elected citywide. What this will do is, when there's outages, we will have to buy some hardware and software. When there's outages, it'll actually show up. It utilizes our maps, our meters, and it shows up on a diagram. It shows exactly where the outage is. Mm-hmm. But most of all, to make y'all happy, and I know you're real constituent-oriented, it will show if the people can get on the portal for the Light and Water Department, they can see where in Columbus the outages are. I don't know how y'all are, but when Todd Gale was the manager, he would always call me and said, "Jeff, are your lights out?" And if I said yes, they came back on mighty quickly. You notice the office was always on. Well, you know, Dr. Verdale is too fair to do stuff like that. So when my lights go out, mine stay out like everybody else's does. This would show the public exactly where the outages are. It is such a valuable information, and it's $400,000. And all of that is something that we have put together and have been working on for a good while. Trey has been with us, Trey Harston, and he has worked on it, and he's had to change things a whole lot. And I thought I might let Trey step in unless y'all have some questions of me and explain to you the cost.
Do we have any questions before? Okay, Trey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, good evening. Trey Hairston with Butler Snow. I'll be very brief and simply explain the resolution that is before you and why it is structured the way it is. This is the request of the Columbus Light and Water to borrow funds through the city in connection with issuing bonds through the Mississippi Development Bank. The reason we're doing that is because you have the ability to structure very favorable terms. You can negotiate with banks, and currently interest rates are historically low. You or I can go to the bank and get a taxable rate. Cities, counties, et cetera, have the ability to borrow tax-exempt money, and so this is what this is. We'll likely have an offering document which will allow us to access the capital markets. This debt will be publicly traded. We'll probably rate this debt, and the goal is to get the best interest rate possible for the city and the Columbus Light and Water Department. This is simply the intent resolution, which says to the public we intend to borrow these funds for these particular projects. We will publish this resolution in the Commercial Dispatch on November 24th, December 1, and December 8th, and then we will come back before this body on December 21st to hopefully adopt a no protest, where the citizens would hopefully want to see these projects happen, and then we'll adopt the bond resolution and the operative bond documents that allows us to go forward to the Development Bank. I'll pause there for any questions.
Can you explain to the council and to the citizens how this will not affect the city at all, as far as the fact that y'all are asking for the bond through the city, but it's not going to affect us as far as any debt or payment, correct?
Well, it will not affect the city in terms of payment. This is revenue that comes in from the Light and Water Department from rates. The utility system, one of the few in the state that has an actual utility department / commission, which allows it to have electricity side and a water sewer side. So the revenue is going to be paid by the Light and Water. This is a 20% debt limit transaction, which means it does not affect the city's general obligation capacity, which allows the city to go and do infrastructure work like roads, bridges, et cetera, et cetera. So has no real bearing on the city's true borrowing capacity.
And the rate increase that's going to cover this is already in place, and it's going to be there regardless of whether you do the bonding, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know, we getting some, to be truthful with you, we were really looking for something from Light and Water. I don't know, I need to address this to Mr. Smith or is Ms. Verdale here? No sticky question, you know, it's straight up. With this, if it get approved, are we looking to hire more employees? Would any more employees be hired? I didn't hear you. Not necessarily.
Right, the construction. I would define these as temporary, construction project type jobs that will be the result of doing the actual work to construct the new process.
Mr. Mayor, I might help the Reverend.
Yes, please help the Reverend if you can.
We, the Light and Water Department, some of y'all that are new may not realize this yet. I think Reverend knows this. We do fee in lieu. We actually take some of the money, the honest answer is if this increases our revenues, we have traditionally raised the amount we pay as fee in lieu from the Light and Water to the city. It's gone from $100,000 when I first became the attorney, I think maybe $450,000 now. So can we help? The short answer is yes. And Trey is not familiar with that because he's the bond attorney. He's not, I won't say he's not a real attorney because he is, but I mean, he's the bond lawyer.
I got a question. Y'all stated that rates will increase regardless if we do this or not. Like, You mean like people's light bills are going up higher than what they already are?
That's a good question. About 9 years ago, the Light and Water, some of y'all probably might remember this. I know the Reverend probably would. TVA was kicking us in the short legs. I mean, they were kicking us anyway, 6, 7, 8% a year. And so what we did, in all honesty, it was Jabari Edwards' idea, and it was a bright idea, passed unanimously. We decided that as an entity, we would, every October, look and give a tiny increase. This one's 1.4%, and it's just on electricity. We were getting 6, 7, 8. Y'all may not remember this TVA. It was, they were charging us a surcharge, and Jeff, you may remember it, and we were having to pass on to the citizens 6, 7, 8%. So what we do when TVA gives us the TVA hasn't found the Lord and changed their minds, you know. I didn't mean to insinuate that. They still kicking us with rate increases, but what we're able to do is we do a little tiny one every October. It passes in the spring, takes effect in October, and so you're going to, I think Dr. Verdell will say this to the average home, this may be 3.4 cents, right? Around $3.04. It'd be around $3. And we were getting, back in the day, we were getting some 11, 12, 13. Any of y'all remember your bills jumping up like that. But yes, sir, it took effect last month. Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments?
If I might ask, the rate increase that you said just took effect, that's designed to cover the debt payments, right? You're not anticipating any new rate increases to cover it?
No, sir.
That's what I thought.
May I make a motion that we allow the intent to move forward?
I have a motion to allow the intent to move forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Oh, it's a voice vote. I'm sorry, guys. Starting with, is it
Yes.
Oh, Councilwoman Stewart, yes.
Yes.
Ward 2, Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Now, let me go back and see where I was. All right, next we have to discuss and approve an ad valorem tax exemption for Military Lee LLC project. I believe, Jeff, can you help us with this? Do you have?
Well, Mayor and City Council, I see in the audience we have Ms. Ruth Berry and her lawyer, Chris Hemphill, representing her in the petition.
Good evening.
You have petition council, Mayor, I'm Chris Hemphill, for those who don't know me, I introduced myself to the mayor earlier. Like I know everyone except Ms. Councilwoman DeChico, I believe. I'm Chris Hemphill, this is Miss Ruth Berry, I think y'all probably all familiar with her. She's been a resident of this city a mighty long time. You have before you a project that actually started with her husband, Scott Berry. It started with the redevelopment authority. I believe it's a piece of property may have been the first purchase from the redevelopment authority. Mr. Scott Berry purchased that on behalf of Military Lee and proceeded for many years, or for years. And then Miss Ruth took this project over when her husband untimely passing. It's been a struggle, and she's trying, during the worst time with the pandemic, she has brought this project to very near completion. Still a few little things to do, but we have now filed an application for exemption from ad valorem taxes to give them a little help. I'm trying to make this a profitable project. There are some bonds out there that once they become profitable, Ms. Ruth has told me that certain parts of this development will generate sales tax, which will ultimately benefit the city in addition.
Well, we're already generating sales tax a good bit in what we're paying out to contractors and subcontractors. So but we intend to generate sales tax in the future, on our own behalf.
And I think that's from the venue that you've created.
We
to
have
be-
the Lyceum at Lee, and we'll be offering food and beverage service. And it's a really not, I think most of you've been there. We're ready to go there now. We're finishing up the catering kitchen, and which was the old band hall, and the choral department, which is now the green room. It attaches to the stage, and so those are being finished. And we're practically finished with those.
And to attach to the application, you've got the exhibit there that shows what Military Lee LLC has put into this project, including the acquisition cost. Ms. Ruth, on behalf of Military Lee, has asked me to file and ask for this tax exemption for maximum is up to 10 years. Of course, it does not exempt from school taxes. Those will still apply. We're asking for whatever that is eligible for according to state law. I can't even put a number on it because I think the tax office will have to get involved to reassess, and the improvements have been finished. They've still got to do some reassessing or reappraisal. That'll have to finish, but we're asking for whatever the city council asking actually to grant this project at 1815 Military Road, which is formerly the Lee High School campus, the tax exemption allowed by law.
You may or may not be aware, but it is on the Register of Historical Places. And recently we had a monument put out front to the highway department came down and set it. We didn't have a formal, uncovering or anything like that because we were just too busy, But anyway, that's been done and it's in place, and it's looking really good, and I think it's made a huge improvement to our community and to our town, to our citizens, and we'll continue to do so.
Yes, I would encourage anyone that's not seen it to go and take a look. It's amazing what y'all been able to accomplish there. It's really going to be an asset to the city, and I know you're already beginning to get there with it. Do we have any discussion on this?
I have one question, but I think you just answered it about the school still getting the taxes, because I remember when I was on the school board, that was one reason why I voted for it, to sell it. That's right. For $1 to the redevelopment board, because it would bring taxes back to the schools.
That's right. It will, because the school's taxes are not exempted by law.
Exactly.
I wasn't here when this was passed originally. Did the city not obligate or promise to give a tax exemption once the project was complete or something? Was that my understanding?
I was here, and I'm pretty sure I remember very clearly the redevelopment board asked the mayor and city council to include the property within the city's central business district footprint. It didn't necessarily, I don't believe, promise that they would grant the exemption, but that was the only logical reason the redevelopment board asked for it to be put in there, is to make available the exemptions available under that statute that's referred to in the application. You got two choices. You can do central business district or historic structure, or a historic structure in the historic district. This one is a historic structure. There was a lot of work, and I worked early on. I see Steve McEwen here represented Mr. Barry during the process leading up to the acquisition. And then we spent a lot of effort talking to Archives and History about whether or not the building could be torn down so it could be redeveloped into something else. They were adamant that it would not be allowed to be torn down. And I can testify that Mr. Barry spent a lot of his energy and time working on this with the hope that it would be granted an exemption, but the promise was not ever expressly made that I can remember.
And we would still get the taxes off of whatever they paid for it, just not off of what they spent on it, correct?
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated on how that would be figured because it was exempt up until the time that he bought it. But I think the first year, the tax assessor assessed some taxes on it that were paid, and then that was probably before substantial improvements had been made to the project. So as I understand the law, you can't exempt all the value. You just exempt the new value added, or a percent of that if you don't want to grant the 100% exemption. And you can grant it up to 10 years, or you can grant it for a lesser period in your discretion if that's what you want to do.
I seem
And
to
council,
remember
this
that.
ain't nothing new, right? I mean, we have done this before, I mean, for other.
Yes, sir. And I don't remember a single application
That
for
we
an
got.
exemption that you denied.
We didn't.
There's one lady that, whose husband died. She renovated a house on College Street, and her application was not within the year period that's required under the Central Business District. And the city council granted her an exemption for the maximum amount of time that was left. I can't remember, Hocut, I believe was her name. But every single one, we've had, you've approved intent resolutions for the Stone Hotel that Chris Shane's doing. You approved another one for Tom Velick, who's working on the building next to that mini storage on 5th Street North. You did a number of them for Gail Gwinnett on projects that she did. And it's right up there from your office. Holly Hawks, I can't remember their name, but they got an exemption.
Were they all for 10 years?
The Harriets. Gloria Harriet.
Gloria Harriet, that's right. Yes, as I remember it, they were 10. You also did it for Billy Coleman and Kathy Coleman for the, what is now Bank of Commerce and the DA's office. Hers, that was over 10 years ago. That exemption's expired here recently. So you might ask, why'd you want to give those exemptions? Because people, it's an incentive for people to improve their property in town or to build new if it's in the Central Business District. And yeah, if you grant the exemption, you don't get those revenues right away, but you get the benefit of all that improvement and the activity that flows from it.
May I, I'm sorry, any more questions? I'm sorry.
Any more
I was
questions?
just going to make the statement that I believe Mr. Chain will be back here fairly soon because of the way they've been banging on the wall next door to my office, my law office. It sometimes sounds like I have to go walk up to the wall to make sure they're not drilling through my wall. But they've really been working hard there.
They have.
So is this for the 22 year? That doesn't apply to this year, does it? My understanding was the cutoff was September 1st to get an exemption for this year.
You're right. This year cannot be exempted. It was assessed on January 1. So this would start at the 2022 year, which would not be payable until February of 2023.
Any other questions or discussion?
I was just going to add that I do think that the Historic Business District, was extended to include this property.
Any other questions or comments?
I make a motion, we extend the exemption.
Second?
I have a motion from Councilman Green and a second from Councilwoman DeChico. Any discussion? Is this a hand vote? It can be a hand vote. That was a joke. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. May we be excused?
Yes, you are excused.
I'm used to courtroom, sorry.
Okay. Now we're here to discuss and approve the city sound ordinance. This has been a full evening. At this time, I'll ask the city attorney, Jeff Turnage, to summarize the draft of the city's noise ordinance, after which I will defer to Joe to open the public forum.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, City Council members and Mayor. It's a fairly long ordinance. As I may have mentioned before, it's modeled after one Oxford recently passed. And after I got it from the Oxford city attorney and reviewed through it, and I called him back, and in the interim, he said he had some issues, so we got on a conference call, and if you have it in front of you, there are a number of red lines and strike-throughs that are additions to what we originally presented to you. So the first part, it just is the general introduction. 19.1, unreasonable noise is prohibited. Then 19.2 is a couple of pages, 3.5 pages of definitions. They're kind of common sense. I won't read them all to you unless anybody wants to hear a particular one. Then there's a 19-3, sets forth the exclusions to the noise ordinance, which, there would be common sense ones also, like, for example, an official government vehicle sounding a siren is not going to be subject to the noise ordinance. Other operation of emergency vehicles or audible warning devices, et cetera. And then there's an exemption for domestic power tools and lawnmowers during particular hours of a day. There's an exemption for events sponsored by the City of Columbus with the permission of the Mayor and Council, and for Visit Columbus sponsored events or other sponsored events on city property. Then you have the general restrictions, and that just talks about different categories of things that are only allowed at certain times. Construction, for example, would be 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. and not after that, Monday through Saturday and not on Sunday, but the council can grant exceptions if it wants to. Then, let's see, you've got a provision dealing with motor vehicle noise. It did not include mufflers because so many manufacturers are making cars with mufflers that are loud. We could add that if y'all decide you want to do that, but this draft didn't include that, but it does include squealing of tires or grating or grinding or other noise that would be like a vehicle out of repair. It talks about, we added recently on the bottom of page 6 that if it's a business operating sound equipment, they're going to have a responsible party on site, so that if the police department has to come to the facility on a complaint and the decibel level is beyond what's permitted, he can talk to a particular individual designated by that business as the responsible party. And if they don't bring it into compliance, he could arrest that person, and when that happens, they would have to shut down.
Can I interrupt for just a second?
Yes, sir.
Go back to the muffler. What was the reasoning for not including mufflers?
Well, we had on our call the other day, the Oxford's, I don't think he was the police chief, but he was a higher up in the department, and he said in their experience, a lot of manufacturers, like of certain Mustangs and Plymouth Chargers, make them in a way when you accelerate, you get that roar, and they didn't want to be penalizing somebody who bought a factory-made product. So that was their thinking. If you wanted to include it, you certainly could. Does that answer your question? Yes, okay. So then, I'm trying to think where I was. I think the next was section 19.5. It deals with restrictions on outdoor entertainment. And this one relates to outdoor entertainment in a place that is not in a residential district or in a place that abuts a residential district. It says that outdoor entertainment can occur between 10 a.m. and 11 p.m., and even then it will only be allowed at certain decibels, 65 dBA and 75 dBc, which is the high frequency and the low frequency. Then it has a different provision for central business district and in primarily commercial areas. In residential areas that I was just talking about, or in areas abutting, the time that noise is sound equipment is not, that sound equipment is not allowed. It's would be between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. as opposed to 11 p.m. And then after that time, if it's plainly audible at the property line, it would be illegal. So I think that would address a lot of the complaints people have late at night trying to sleep, can't do that. But if 10 p.m. or the decibel levels turn out to be too early or too low or too high, you can obviously adjust them. Next is restrictions on multi-unit dwellings. I don't see that being an issue here in Columbus, but we left it in there because it is in Oxford. And then 19-10 relates to loudspeakers, and paragraph 2 relates to outdoor loudspeakers. That would be the one that would get everybody's attention. I noted here yesterday, going over this with Kenny Weigel, that it was a little confusing between outdoor entertainment, outdoor loudspeakers, and entertainment in a residential district. So with Kenny's help, we rewrote paragraph 2 on outdoor loudspeakers, making sure that it was clear that if it was outdoor entertainment out in a particular district, that it would be governed by that provision, and if it was within a residential neighborhood or abutting a residential neighborhood, it would have to comply with the regulations I mentioned earlier. And beyond that, there's penalties and enforcement, which is standard. It's a misdemeanor if you violate it. $1,000 fine is the max. And then for convenience of the police officers and the public, there's a chart at the back that shows the districts and the different decibel levels.
Thank you, Council.
Council and Mayor, at this time, we'd like to declare our public forum on our hearing on the noise ordinance open. We've had one person to sign up for it to speak, and before Curtis comes up here, still here? I guess he left, Mayor. I'm sorry, so we don't have any comments, but I would like to, are there any other persons here to speak about the noise ordinance? Okay.
Wait. That's okay. Come up,
Would you
come up
to the
if you could,
microphone,
Mike.
please?
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Oh, good Lord. I'm Jennifer Bishop. Not officially owner with Ruben's Fish House. My husband is one of the owners. Ray is the other owner. I just had a few questions just to clarify with this going forward.
Sure.
When you state, well, first, in a previous meeting, I guess Mr. Branch had, just make sure this is still standing. When I call it, I'm sure all of y'all know, we only have a problem with one person that ever calls in on us. Whew, sorry, I got nervous for a minute. So I guess my question is it still standing that he would be the only one responding if a call is made to operate the decimal reader?
Well, I think at the present time, he's the only one with the skills to operate it, but I don't think that'd be carved in stone, because we'll probably buy more than one decibel reader, and I would expect at some point we may have more than one, but for the time being, Chief, he may, is that right? He's going to be it for the time being?
That's correct. And we will, in the future, we will purchase more and have more available.
What if he's off work and somebody calls?
And he'll come to work.
He's in the detective division, so he's used to being called out all the time, so I think.
I understand that too, but if he's out of town or if he's too far away to get there by the time they...
That's a good point. That's why I was not equivocal that he would be the only guy. I think.
We'll go ahead and designate a second.
Get somebody else trained, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Are the readers or meters very expensive? I mean, they cost a lot?
Depends on how you define it. I think they're a little between $400 and $500 a piece.
Yeah, to avoid any calls on them, maybe a business would want to put one up so they would know exactly where they were.
You can get an app on a phone that's supposed to be pretty good. I just didn't think if we went to court, we'd want to be testifying from an iPhone app. So that's why I suggested the city buy a bona fide one that can be calibrated and all that.
Let me add at this point, Mayor, that we've set up a system for every business in town we will go out and test their system for them to help them establish levels. They contacted me. We've already got approval from the chief and from Max, and then what we will do is we will go out and work with every business and say this is allowable, and then this is where you're over the limit. We'll come out as many times as they want to test as much equipment as they need at no cost.
Okay, and then I guess my second question, just to clarify in the reading, when it states that the reader will be placed at the property line or 5 feet away, Does that mean like in our instance, would it be placed from the Rubens property line, or is it gonna be 5 feet outside the bar, restaurant?
Bear with me, I may not be able to answer that just right off the top of my head. I believe you're in the residential, you're not in a residential, but you have residential abutting. Is that correct?
Across the river, yes, sir.
You got one right next to you too, though, don't you?
I don't know, if he still lives in that house?
It's a residential, zoned residential is what my point is. Okay. I guess rather than hold the meeting up, I want to be sure I'm right. I don't want us to misspeak. If you'll get Mr. Dillon your information, I'll look up the answer and then we'll publish the answer if that pleases the mayor and council, rather than delay the meeting any further, because I'm not certain of the answer just right here.
Okay, and then to kind of be, can I get his information for, come on, do that reader you were talking about? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think that's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And we do make that offer to any business in town. Just contact me, and we will come out and measure as many times as you want to help you understand our levels and that we're being fair and equitable to everyone. Any other comments or questions? At this time, Mayor, we will close the public forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
So will we vote on this with an unanswered question, or?
Well, the answer is in the policy, right? You just,
It's in there. I'm just not certain of the, see, gentleman looks like he has something else to add, but, yeah, I think it's. Well,
it's a lengthy policy, but let's look for a minute.
yeah, because I'm, you never know how well you know something until you want to sit down and be cross-examined about it. It's in here, and so I'll get you the answer. That's the best I can tell you.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Jones. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Stewart. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We need to discuss the Arpa premium pay for city employees. Councilman Beard, would you like to address this?
I'm going to recuse myself from
Oh, okay.
And the next one.
All right, we'll come in, we'll let you know when we get through those. I think there's some snacks over there in that room. They said, Councilman Jones, if you want to,
Yeah, don't go outside.
if you're hungry.
Yeah, don't let him go out there. He don't like to come back.
Yeah, go over there, go in there, please. Chief, lock that door, please.
Yeah, lock it all the way.
Wherever you're comfortable, you can do it there, or you can go up front. Okay.
All right, thanks for listening to me, I guess. We've been discussing premium pay through Arpa for months now. What we can do and what we cannot do, what we can give, to whom we can give it to. We understand and we know what an essential worker is. It has been defined to us through several executive orders by our governor, as well as the White House. What we do know is through Arpa, we are able to give premium pay to the city employees. $1.3 million has been earmarked to do this with. All employees are not eligible because of the guidelines. They have specific dates, starting dates, but as of research of yesterday, that we are still in a state of emergency until November 20th. So it has been extended to November 20th. So that would include all employees. So I was doing a little research. At $13 an hour, at 40 hours weekly, you're looking at $520 weekly for each employee. I have met with Mark, our interim COO. He has given me some guidelines on different things of how people can get paid, minimum of 1,000 up to a maximum of 4,000, based on the amount of years that they were employed with the city. And I've been doing, like I say, my own research of how we can split it. And one of the things that keep coming up is we cannot give more than 150% of the employee's salary. Well, if we're breaking it down within 3 payments, we would not exceed 150% for any employee. So I'm open for discussion. If anybody has questions, I know that there's been some more information going around stating that we cannot do this, but that is incorrect. We can definitely give our employees premium pay through Arpa.
Do we have any questions or comments for Councilman Beard? Does everybody have the document in front of them that was prepared?
I guess what we will see, I did put out the papers that Mark did give me. So I guess we'll be, I mean, if you guys want to go off that one with the $1,000 minimum for employees that work less than a certain amount of time, up to $4,000 for people. What we do know is this is a once in a lifetime thing. I do understand that this money can be matched and distributed in other places. Therefore, we will not be giving the complete $1.3 million that has been basically like cut in half to put it back in so we can, have at least $5 million to work with the other avenues with. So I guess the question will be, are we going to go with this, or we can give them all $2,500, and that'll start this Friday. You do 1140. It'll be 1140 on this Friday's check. It'll be 1140 on 12/3, and then it'll be $320 on the final check for all employees, hourly employees.
I'm going to say that I'm not in favor of giving a straight across the board premium pay for some employees that have been here for 20 years and some employees that have been here for 2 months. As far as are we in a legal situation that we can divide this into 3 payments? That is legal because, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that part of how we can divide this up into 3 and avoid the state regulations.
Well, I was following different cities and counties in Mississippi. So particularly Hinds County, they're doing what Hinds County is doing. They're giving employees who make less than $25,000 $4,000. They're giving employees who make between $25,000 and $54,000 $3,000, and they're giving employees who make over $55,000. They're giving them $2,000, and then they're giving all part-time employees $1,500. And that's basically, they stated it has to be split so it won't exceed the amount of money that the employee makes, if I'm making sense with the wording.
Counsel, where you at it? Where you at on this?
Well, first of all, I would agree that it is legal to grant premium pay. So that part's pretty easy. Because Section 603C1 of Arpa says funds may be used to respond to workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency by providing premium pay to eligible workers. So there's no question that premium pay is contemplated by the government when they passed Arpa. But where it gets a little fuzzier is that the funds come from the federal government to the state government, and then they didn't come direct to us like they did some counties and municipalities. They came through the state. So in my view, we would want to try to comply with the state law. And you've got a couple of constitutional provisions. One says you can't grant a donation and you can't give a bonus. So there's pretty well-established law. You can't give retroactive pay in Mississippi. So for what somebody did prior, before you've decided to award premium pay, I would be scared that you'd be stepping on the Mississippi Constitution by giving retroactive or retrospective pay. Now, the way Rankin County did it is they did prospective incentive pay. And I talked to their attorney twice, and I've emailed with him. And he said that they set theirs up as an incentive for future work during COVID, and that they paid them across the board $13 an hour. What Mr. Beard said about 150%, if I read the act right, it said if you give more than 100, if the raise you give puts somebody's salary at more than 150% of the average salary in Mississippi, you can't do it unless you make special findings as to what would justify making the premium pay to those higher paid employees. So, bottom line, I'm nervous about across the board premium pay. I understand if you want to do that, you may want to do it. I saw, and I sent an article around yesterday, the Floor County supervisors got a demand from Shad White to repay $113,000. 4 supervisors voted favor. They're asked to repay $28,000 each.
But was that CARES Act money or
That was
ARPA?
CARES Act money, not ARPA. But I mean, you know, the point was, I think they awarded it retrospectively. One supervisor didn't vote for it the first time, but he voted it to approve one employee later. He's being asked to pay $500. So you just want to make sure you do it right. If you are doing it and you're doing it across the board, I would suggest Rankin County did this. They had each employee sign an agreement for the supplemental services, but I don't know. I mean, their lawyer says you can do it. I talked to the MML lawyer with Butler Snow that represents the municipal league, and he said he's scared of it. He wouldn't recommend it. So,
with all the questions that we have and the uncertainty, I would like to table this until we can find out, first of all, if it's legal, and then if we're making the right decision on what we should do. I make a motion to table.
Have a motion to table. I'm sorry, in a second, did you want to discuss? Okay, yes, please, ma'am.
My question is, this is not the first time we brought that up, and each time we are unclear, right, how can we do it? And some of these employees will get so they don't qualify, so where do we go for answers?
That's a really good question.
We table it before, and we keep tabling and keep tabling. It is someone's responsibility to know what we need to do, so where do we go from here?
It's a really good question. I emailed Treasury, and they said, thanks for your email, read the act and consult with your legal counsel. Treasury wasn't answering the question. So I guess you could go to the Attorney General, but our experience with them is that they're exceedingly slow in giving an answer.
What about Shad White? He's the one that asked for the other money back.
Yeah, we could talk to Shad, but the state auditor's office doesn't give opinions as far as I know. I mean, they have technical assistants down there, and you could talk to him.
Will this be addressed, do you know, in the policy that's going to still come down from Treasury? Could it be in this?
Well, it could be. Of course, it is clear from what I've read on Treasury that the interim final rule can be relied upon until they come out with a final rule. So if you interpret it as saying you're good, then you're relying on some provision in the interim final rule, they won't be able to punish you because they change their mind later in a final rule.
Okay, we have a motion to table this discussion with a second from Councilman Green and a second from Councilwoman DeChico. Do we have any more discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Turnage has been up here with me now going on 4 terms. And the only thing that I care about with Mr. Turnage is to keep me out of jail. That's what I care about. And I trust him when it comes to that point. I mean, as much as I want to help the employees right now, God knows I want to help them. But I got to listen to the attorney on this one. I got to. I mean, we can look at it like I shared with you on Friday. We can, I'm going to tell the employees, we can look at it as it being delayed but not denied. It's still going to come. I mean, just wait a little while longer. I understand, Ms. Stewart, what you're saying, and I agree wholeheartedly with you. We have been, in other words, kicking it down the road, kicking the point, the ball, the can, whatever. We've been kicking it down the road, but I'd rather kick it down the road 5 more times before I go to jail. I had to pay some money back. I'm just gonna be real. So,
Get it, but what's the difference with our COO coming up with this, saying that this is possible
Well-
to give to every single employee? He's done his research as well.
well, first of all, my COO is not an attorney.
True.
And second of all, my COO is not here.
Also true.
Okay, I'm listening to you. I understand now. We ain't gonna wrestle now, but I'm just saying I got to listen to him. Okay, I can't at this time. I can't.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion?
My discussion is, and I'm with Lincoln here, we have an attorney for a reason. We have to listen to the attorney. But my thing is, for the attorney, how do we bring closure?
That's true. That's a good question
We cannot continue
to do this.
well, you know, the attorney say this, but I'm afraid, and maybe we need to table it. I'm okay with vision, I'm okay with being protected, but we need to find a way to bring closure.
Is that a deadline, Jeff, that we can set, Mayor? Could we just set a deadline, say by this time here, we make a decision, we're gonna vote it up or vote it down?
I mean,
How much time,
I'm going to
like
say
Ms.
that,
Stewart said, how much time you need to get us the information that we need?
I'm going to say I've spent numerous hours, and I don't know that any more hours of research is going to bring me to a comfort level about it. And the Butler Snow folks they've got a team that represents numerous cities that have been researching it, and they seem to be pretty comfortable saying the best they can do is say, I don't know. And I'm kind of like that I forget her name, Catherine Gaylor.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be uncertain when you go to spending the money. I would suggest you find something that's clear in it and focus your energy on that, because premium pay is allowed, but is it allowed across the board? If you don't do it across the board, then what does that do to morale? I don't know. But that's not a legal question, really. I just don't think I'm going to ever get to a point where I'm going to have comfort with it. I'm sorry, but
What we can do, council, is that we can continue to do the research that Councilman Beard has done. He's worked very hard and looking for this information because he wants to support our employees, which we all do. What I can tell you that we'll continue to do is reach out to other municipalities who are looking at doing this, and we will try to stay on top of where people are coming down on this so we can keep the council abreast of anything that we learn new, and try to get a clear answer as soon as possible. So is there any more discussion before we vote?
The motion to table is for how long?
We didn't have a time frame. Would you like to put a time frame on it?
Because this is something, seriously, this is something that we've been dealing with for an extremely long time. And that's bringing up, we with the $1.5 million clerical error that we had, and with giving our employees raises. We sit up here constantly and we decide on things for the city, but we also forget about our employees. So I would like for us to come with some clarity if I have to drive to Jackson myself and speak with someone. But there's something that needs to be done. That's why I'm asking for a time frame on your table.
Would you like to do it by the end of the month? End of December, before the end of the year, to bring it back?
The second meeting in December.
Second meeting in December?
That should be enough time.
Would you like to add that to your motion to table to the second meeting in December, Rusty?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And if we have to revisit, we will, but at least a finite date on to come up with some answers.
Okay, we have a motion, a new motion. Do we need to vote on the other one, the first one, or can he just add to it?
if Ms. Jachico is fine with the second, then you wouldn't need to redo it.
Okay. So our motion and our second is that we will table this until the second meeting of December. Is that correct? Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion passes 4 to 1. Thank you. He voted against it. Did you not, Pierre? Yeah, he voted against it. Okay, next, and we need to keep Councilman Jones still out on this one too. This is to discuss pay raises for city employees. Councilman Beard.
Here I am again. I've also been doing research on the pay raises for our city employees, and I'm just going to be brief and go ahead and read my motion. I make a motion that we give 75 cent across the board hourly wage increases to all departments, preferably from the general fund of the city, and if funds are not available, to take them from the insurance fund surplus.
You said you want to get this from the general fund?
Meeting with Mark, he basically stated that there's a between $32,000 to between $32,000 and $43,000 that will come a month, and he said the city is bringing in that amount of money, so we probably would not have to take it from the insurance fund, but if we do, then we can take it from the insurance fund. You're looking at approximately between $360,000 to $450,000 a year, which will still keep the insurance surplus fund well over $1 million.
So this is for all hourly wage employees?
Yes, sir.
How did you come up with that particular figure, Mr. Beard?
Which figure, 75 cents?
Yes, sir, just coming up with 75 cents an hour.
I mean, that was just, 75 cents to get from people from 10:30 to get them making over $11 an hour, with the possibility of creating a plan to get everybody up to $12, because that was originally stated when we started the process of giving our employees raises, to try to get them up to $12. So if we get them up to 75 cents, which would be 11, like I said, to take the lowest, well, we actually have an employee in Park and Rec making 10, so it'll get her up to 1075, which we will have to try to get her, that position up to 12 within the budget cycle of next year. So I just got that 75 cent just to get, the lowest people up to at least $11, which we will also have a 42 to 47% increase via PERS, because, all of your insurance and all of that thing. So you're looking at approximately like $1.05 per employee.
Mr. Beard, I am 100% in favor of helping our employees and getting their raises up. I approved that when we first started talking about this, and then we came into the shortfall and things kind of fell apart. I would like to have a discussion and a meeting, and let's make sure this is well thought out, this is discussed, and everybody's opinion is on the table, and make sure that this is something that we can sustain every year and not get ourselves in trouble, and hopefully could do that soon to get them some raises that they well deserve. But I just hate kind of doing this on a spur of the moment kind of thing, it feels like, without a whole discussion and a work session kind of setting.
Well, we can have a discussion now, correct?
Yes, we're in the discussion phase of your motion. We don't have a second yet, but we have been discussing it. One of the things too is, I think we would probably be good to clarify, is what you said about if the money is actually in the general fund as you described, but if it's not, it would come from the surplus in the insurance fund. But you said that even if we took it from there, we would still have a
we would still be in a surplus in the insurance fund to cover all of the what you call it, Ms. Pat? The $300,000 and the $341,000.
We need to keep $770,000 in the reserve account for insurance purposes, for claims.
Yeah.
And rent out claims. We will have to determine just on there. Fringe benefits will be factored in, that's, the increase all the way around of course, the city would pay a little more for workers' compensation, they would pay a little more for their portion of PERS. So it's gonna trickle down. There will be some cost to the city as well as the employees, but I can't, give you a ballpark figure without being able to sit down and calculate everybody's, 75 cents on their pay rate, on their current, hourly rate.
What time frame you looking at here, Mr. Beard? Is it first of the year? What we looking at?
First of the year is fine. First of the year would be fine.
Would that be enough time for you, Ms. Mitchell?
And Mr. Beard, the point of taking it out of the insurance surplus, that seems like a one-time fix. We can't count on that. We need to come up with a solution that's going to be something that we can sustain these raises for many years to come, not when we have a surplus on the insurance.
Yes, sir.
You have to budget it for next budget year.
Right. If we can budget for, no, I'll leave that out.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Councilman Beard.
Second.
Yes, sir.
His motion was to
Was the
approve this
75,
tonight, as
yeah.
he stated.
A substitute motion until we can get actual figures that we can look at from Ms. Pat, because we need to know our actual cost. You know, it's not just what the 75 cents multiplied out is. We'll have additional costs that the city will
The fringes,
assume.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion from Councilwoman DeChico and a second from Councilman Beard. Any more discussion? I mean Green, I'm sorry. This night's running long, guys. I have a second from Councilman Green. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand.
We're voting for the
Substitute motion. We have 2 in favor, all opposed. Motion fails. So we'll go back to the original motion to go ahead and move forward with the raises as Councilman Beard has put in motion. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Beard, are you telling me that you and Mark worked these figures up?
Well, actually, I worked figures up. Mark called me and said that Councilman Green worked up figures and sent to him, and he redid the figures. And we sat in his office for about an hour on yesterday discussing them all. Yesterday discussing all of it.
So for those of us
Yeah.
that want to table, I want to do the right thing, but we had Mark to work on our budget, we could go with that. And these things he worked up, he needs to go back another couple of months, wait again, to have a major discussion and someone to look at it, who would look at it and make decisions?
You would come up with a final figure, I think, what we need. What this is, we can. My concern is, can we do this year after year? This doesn't need to be a one-time fix.
It would have to be budgeted. That would every year during the budgeting cycle, they would have to budget, and also we would have to, as councilmen and councilwomen, to come up with different things to bring revenue into our city. I mean, we have to pay the people regardless, one day or the other, and if we're up here, we have to bring in different ideas to increase the revenue so we can afford to pay our employees. If you think about like the Arpa presentation that these people just came up and gave, we have 28.4% of people living in a poverty level. African American community make less than $20,000 a year, and half of those people work where? For the city. Well, not half, but a lot of them work right here for our city, making $10 an hour. So if we can give it to them now and then focus on creating new streams of income coming to our city. We just gave a business a 10-year tax exemption. That was a lot of revenue that could have came into this city.
But Pierre, don't you think we need to see actual numbers that Ms. Pat can show us?
Correct. What she said, we will not start until January. So we can get the numbers before then to know what we will be working with. It's not going to start like tomorrow, the increase. So
I understand, but if she comes up with something that doesn't work, do we go back and take that away?
According to like I stated, according to the information that this interim COO gave me yesterday, the money is available. The money is definitely available through the general fund. And if it's not, all of it is not, if we come up with that is not available, then we do have a $1.3 million surplus in the insurance fund, of which our human resource director just stated. The only thing we need is $707,000 in it. So you're looking at $600,000. It would not exceed $600,000 if it has to come out of the insurance fund. So it's definitely something that can be done. We can even give them $1. But
I understand that you can do it, but wouldn't it be better to actually see figures, to see the numbers, the cost to the city, as well as what comes, the 75 cents out of the general fund?
Correct. So what we can do is ask Ms. Mitchell at the next council meeting, can you have those figures available for us at the next council meeting?
I have to get up in the morning and go prepare payroll. December, we have 3 payrolls. So, you know, without putting our dollar business in the street, each payroll is about $430. So December, we have 3 of them. I just want you to be mindful of that, because that's over $1 million there. I cannot promise you that I will have that December the 7th, because I'm short-staffed.
So what we're saying is we can't give them ARPA, and now you're saying we can't give them 75 cents. Is that what I'm hearing? No, I'm not talking from her perspective. I'm asking you guys.
Mr. Beard, when Mark said I presented those numbers to him, I certainly did. You came in here and asked for $1.5 million earmarked for raises, and I didn't feel like it was fair to give somebody who's been here a month the same amount of raise that somebody who's been here 25 years. So I went back and I put that chart together and sent it to Mark that was prorated for a premium pay for the year's service to the city, because I too want them to get a bonus. So I am not ruling out the ARPA money. If it is totally legal, and I went through and presented that. I came up with those figures that I could feel comfortable with, closer to the 500,000 than the $1,500,000, and I can live with that. But are you talking about giving the ARPA and 75 cents? My thought was the ARPA money would be a significant bonus that would get us until the next budgeting process, that we can sit down as a council and come up with a defined plan of what is a good raise and how are we going to pay for it for years to come.
I might say that we should not be using the term bonus. Is that correct, council?
Premium pay.
Right, I think he meant premium pay.
Strike that from the record. I meant premium pay.
We're not legally allowed to do bonuses.
And I get it, Councilman Green. And like I say, that's why I cut it down. It's definitely not going to be $1.3 million. We're going to definitely cut that way down. The purpose of the $1.3 million was to just send a message to our employees that we do definitely care enough about them to figure something out, to give them some type of award for working during COVID. A lot of these employees caught COVID. a lot of our city employees, they actually caught the virus. So that's out. So now the 75 cent, that's not bad. Like I say, it's going to raise some of the employees up to $11.05. You're looking at $1.05 times 200. I'd say 248 employees. That's hourly, and you can do the math. Like I say, I got it. It's between $32,000 and $43,000 a month, increase in payroll. That's
Mr. Beard, can we compromise and say we're going to make a decision on the ARPA money by the second meeting in December? And if that goes through, that's a significant pay raise, premium pay for these employees, and that would buy us some time to go back to the table to try to figure out how we can make a permanent raise in our next budget. Would you be in favor of waiting till we see if ARPA is legal? And if so, then we don't need to do the 75 cents. And if not, then we address the 75 cents.
I can't agree with that because they've been I'm not going to say mistreated, but they've been underpaid for. If you stated that we got employees that's been working here in the city of Columbus for over 25 years, still making $10.30 an hour. We got employees that's been working here, I say that again, over 25 years that has not received any type of raise ever. And here we are at the perfect moment in time that we can give employees 3/4 an hour. That's not going to put us in a financial bind. It's not going to put the city in any type of financial bind. I mean, like I say, the interim COO stated that the money is there. It's available.
Let me get clarification on something. Is it true that we've had employees that hadn't gotten a raise in 25 years?
Doing the same thing we sitting here doing now.
I mean, I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Is there are no, that's not accurate, or is that accurate? Okay.
They may have gotten a raise, but let me say, been here 25 years making $10.30
That's what he's trying to say.
in the same position.
Hadn't gotten over 10.
Hadn't gotten over 1030. Okay. Yeah. I just want to be clear on that. I mean, that was.
I mean, that's a love for the job.
Okay, so the motion that we have on the floor, and y'all help me make sure I got this correct, is Councilman Beard's motion to extend a 75-cent raise across the board, hourly raise across the board, but we also said that we were going to. What are we doing with that until January? Would not go into effect until January. Is that correct?
Was that for department head? Not department head.
Just hourly rate.
Just
hourly, yeah.
And how is it with the people that we have gave raises to? We just did one in Park and Rec. Would that affect him?
Could you put an exemption on that one?
Well, he hourly, right?
Correct.
No problem. Move on. Them two.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. And do we have a second? Councilman Mickens seconded?
Seconded.
Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you, council. Okay, now we're moving on to.
Wake him up back there.
Oh yeah, we need to get Jones back in if he
wake
didn't
him
sneak
up
out
back
on us.
there.
Or at least he's eating all the snacks in there if he hasn't. There he is. Welcome back, Councilman Jones. We are now moving on to discuss and approve the Oak Manor proposed rehab plan. I believe we have, I'm sorry? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. We have Mr. McEwen here. You have the floor?
Okay. Is it all right if I take off the mask?
Yes.
I hope all of y'all received the letter, the letter from Mr. Merchant. Is anybody that didn't get the letter?
Is there anyone who did not get the letter from Mr. Merchant? I believe we got it last Friday. Is that correct? Is he muted right now? Okay, thank you. Last Monday or Tuesday, okay.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to read it to you, but I would like to make a couple of comments before we talk about what's in the letter. First, I have learned that Mr. Merchant, back in the, let's just say somewhere between 2000 and 2010, renovated and brought back to life the apartments on 13th Street North. At that time, Mr. Merchant was the owner, and he brought it up to par. There were people at that time trying to have those torn down, and they wanted to put a park there. How do I know that? Because I was helping him save those apartments. And today, they have, looks like full, pretty much.
Occupancy.
Yes, thank you. Occupancy, and look in pretty good condition. He can do that again with what apartments we have to fix this time. He's done it before. He can do it again. He is wanting to do that. He didn't fully understand about what y'all wanted as far as a written plan. I'm confident that what's in the letter that y'all see can and will be done. He's already, as y'all know, put on roofs that have started making the apartments better. I rode by there today. That's the first time I've ridden by there during the daytime and looked. And I mean, I didn't get out and go in any of the apartments themselves, but the grounds looked fairly well kept. There was people walking around. Looked like a lot of folks there living and doing well. So I hope we can continue that.
Did you go to the right apartments?
I think you missed the wrong apartment.
Well,
or either we need to borrow your glasses.
No, I was at the right apartment. I saw it with my own two eyes. It's the right apartments, and so I'll take any questions y'all have about what's in the letter. I know he's wanting to get this started. If y'all give him the word tonight, he will get it started just like the proposal says. Within the next couple of weeks after y'all give him permission, he will go and get those redone. Anybody got any questions? Yeah, I got one question for Mr. Merchant. Speaking of the 13th Street apartments, I think Sasha has been trying to get them to keep the trash dumpster clean around it for quite some time. And every time I ride by, there's a bunch of trash outside. So if he can make sure whoever's managing them do a little bit better job keeping those trash dumpsters clean around. I'll give him that information. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your second or third time here
Third.
representing Mr. Merchant.
Pardon?
And
I couldn't hear.
representing Mr. Merchant.
Yes.
And yet you say today was the first time you saw the apartment. And Mr. Merchant said he's not seen him because he's in California. So what are you guys basing your assessment and your work off?
Well, he has people that work for him here, that report to him about the 13th Street. They've been down to the other apartments. He has had some people actually interested in buying those apartments from him. I think one of them supposedly contacted you, or tried to. I don't know if that happened or not, but that's what I was told. Okay.
Buying the apartments we're discussing, or the 13th?
The ones were just, the Oak Manor, somebody's offered to buy them from him.
And the other thing too, I parked my car across the street. And unless I am just blind, they poured tar on top of the building. That's different, putting plywood and tar on top of the building than changing a roof. You cannot tell me that there has been a new roof put on those buildings down there. That is not true.
Well, I have not seen the roof.
But you were there today, what were you looking for?
Well, I'd have to go up 2 flights of stairs and climb up something to get on top.
Well,
That's
you can tell from even the fascia board around whether or not you got a new roof on. You don't have to climb on top to see that. You climb on top to see that tar they pulled up there.
Yeah, hello?
Lord.
Yes, I've had 5 roofs put on with I think I have to look at the bid. Steve has those, the invoices. I have paid for 5 roofs, $70,000 for 5 roofs to have a redone with a fiber coating that has been gotten permits from the city, and they put the roof on, 5 of them, that we can start working on the inside immediately. 2 more of those roofs can be done the same way. I believe it's a 30-year guarantee roof with a 5-year guarantee on the materials, that I've already done 5 of them. I got 2 more to do with that membrane stuff. Then the other 2 have to be torn off and completely re-roofed, and the roofer can't do that for another month or so. He can't get to those 2, but he's already done 5, and the permits are issued by the city. Anybody that wants to go down there is welcome to go up and look at them. I've seen the pictures of them. I know they're done. And it's with I'm not a roofer. It took me 2.5, 3 months to get anybody out there because everybody was so busy. But he has the permits at the city. They've already applied for them. Mr. Weagle knows that.
Do we have a?
Just let you know, yes, there is fascia boards that need to be replaced. Fascia boards on the outside, but that's got nothing to do with the membrane on top of these flat roofs. What they come in and fill all the cracks on the top of the roof, and then they come over it with some kind of a membrane. But I know it's either a 30 or a 50-year guaranteed material and 5 years on the warranty, and I have all that in writing that Steve can provide anybody who wants to see it.
Do you have a visual drawing
Of what?
of what we want the building, or what you want the buildings to, or what they will look like after you get through remodeling? Do you have any type of visual? I mean, that's what I think about when somebody's going to remodel something. They draw up a plan and say, okay, this is where we want it to look like when we get through, including landscaping and all that, however we can enhance the area. Do you have anything like that you've taken the time to get done?
Well, I guess I'm not following what you're saying. What I'm doing is going in and putting in anywhere it needs to have linoleum or carpet or paint or holes in the walls or hot water heaters or any of those things redone. Like I said, I won't know everything that needs to be redone until we get in here. So I made an estimate from contractors as best as I could. I ran it by some people that are in the business to make sure that everybody agreed with it, people that I trust. And as far as the landscaping, I'm just going to make sure the grass stays mowed. It's being mowed now. Everyone gets a little.
I'll let you up on my phone.
Sound like Joe.
He just-
I'll
get it. Listen, hey, you need that bill. I agree. Wait, who you talking to? Who you talking to?
Don't say it.
Who you
Hello?
talking?
Hello?
Hello.
George talking to his grandson.
I'm not sure.
Baby, huh?
I'm not sure if I'm on the phone or not. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, I've submitted my plan. You guys have seen it. I think I've answered all the questions.
No,
Kenny
sir,
Wiggle's
we
gonna
haven't
answer
seen a
the
plan.
department before somebody.
Mr. Merchant, I have another question for you. The last time you came on, you let me know you have the contractors down here that looked at it and did, the bidding for it. And you come back now with a price 3 times that much. So how are we to know what your plans are, and do you really know the cost and what your plans would be?
Okay, what I did last time was I sent people that worked for me in there, that worked for me by the day, and my supervisor, Don Reed, but I didn't have all of the, every apartment, because I just estimated them by how many days it would take them to work. This time, I had it done by people that are a little more expensive, but I think it's going to please you guys a little more, so I'm willing to put in a little more work into the place. I wasn't sure exactly how bad it's been, because I've had, due to my age and my health, I've been unable to travel. Haven't seen these apartments in 2 years. I've sent people over there. I did not know that you guys were going to do what you were going to do. I could not work on them because I could not collect any rent. I've been feeding these apartments for 2 years. Every month, there was not enough coming in to make the note payment. So I've been making that. I did not want to fix it because I couldn't collect rent. Now that I can collect rent, before y'all gave me the letter, I was trying to get a roofer out there to come out and give us a bid, because I can't do anything inside till I do the roofs. So I gave you the very best I could get, and I'm not going to lie and say that that's going to be exactly what it's going to cost. It might be a little more, could be a little less. But here's what I will say. It will be up to the code standards, just like 13th Street was. I like it when Kenny Wiggle inspects the apartments, or anybody that's in a covenant, because I'm paying people to redo the apartments. If somebody goes and inspects them and says, hey, this is not right, I like that, because I'm paying a guy to get it right. So I don't have a problem with them inspected. I actually like it being inspected. So I'm just going to fix the apartments, have them inspected, and I'm thinking about putting a gate around the whole place, but I haven't made up my mind on that yet.
Mr. Martin, how many tenants you have occupying that place now? Mr. Martin, are you still there?
Yes.
How many tenants do you have occupied Oak Minor?
I believe I have around 18 or maybe 20.
Are you aware that one of your tenants said that the place should have been knocked down 10 years ago?
What's that?
Were you aware that one of your tenants basically stated that it should have been knocked down 10 years ago?
I'm sorry, I just can't hear the question. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, Mr. Merchant, thank you for your time and input, but, I'm just one of the council. My decision is not, for you not to put any more money in it, because what you're doing is not gonna bring it up to code, so that people can comfortably live.
But I hate to disagree with you, but I don't see how you can say that when I've already done it on the sister building. The buildings I have on 13th Street are the sister buildings of these. Built same time, exactly the same buildings. I brought all of those up to code, and they're still up to code. And I can do the same thing here if somebody just give me a chance. It's not, you're wrong that I can't do that, because I can, but I can unless y'all let me.
Mr. Burchett, I would love for you to fix these apartments back up, but I don't know that is there any guarantee? Council, let me ask you, is there any way we could word this that could be any kind of guarantee that this gentleman is going to have a plan and work the plan and have this finished in 6 months? Or I'm just worried we're going to be here in 6 months and we're going to have some work done and we're going to be right here again and he's going to be out a whole lot of money.
Well, I know it won't take 6 months.
You said it would in your letter.
He said approximately 4 to 6 months.
As far as whether there's something to provide assurance, I know we talked about a performance bond for the mortgage lender, and he refused that. Would Mr. Merchant agree to procure a performance bond?
I can talk to him, I don't know.
The other suggestion I would have is if you were inclined to let him try, is to do one building at a time instead of spreading all his work out over all of them. And if he sticks to a schedule, then that building gets built up to code within a short time frame. You let it stay, and if you're satisfied, let him move on to the next one. If you get where you only have 2 or 3 in 6 months, then maybe you tear down the rest of them. But I don't know of any way to guarantee other than a bond, and so that's the question we'd have to ask Mr. Merchant. I know this is dragging on and frustrating, but till you get asbestos testing and remediation, you're not in a position to tear down anyway, so.
Yeah, I can't answer that without talking to him, and I don't want to talk to him about that as a confidential relationship in front of all y'all. I mean, that's
Right.
the way lawyers deal with their clients.
But if you have, I guess then we're not going to figure out that answer tonight, so it would seem logical to me for you to produce to the city a plan for what would guarantee his performance if a bond won't be agreeable.
Okay, I'm confident he'll finish it if he starts. I'm confident of that. But, so, at this point, there's no change, is what you're saying.
No change. He needs to present some adequate time and money that he's going to put into
But the letter
this
says
place.
all that.
That's what the letter said.
Yes,
If I type a letter, I can write whatever I want in the letter. He needs to show proof to the council that he intends to do improvement on that apartment complex.
Can you go back and speak to him about what council mentioned, and then we can look at this again?
Okay.
Would that be, is that acceptable?
I think we'll go forward with trying to figure out what's the asbestos removal, and we'll start heading down our path, and y'all try to meet us and cut us off.
So what I want y'all to know is he's ready to start. If y'all gave him permission tonight, he's ready to start tomorrow, getting stuff together and done. So we're not delaying it at this point. We're ready to go.
I think what we're asking, though, is that, because they want more assurance than what he presented to us for tonight, what we're asking is for you to potentially go back to him and talk about the bond, as Jeff mentioned, and then also a more detailed time frame, maybe doing one building at a time. They want something a little bit more exact than what's in this stated. So, and until that's done, we'll continue.
I've got a question.
Yes.
If I don't know what he's going to do. Quite frankly, my opinion would be not to do that. But if he would be willing to do that, are y'all guaranteeing me when I tell him that if he does the performance bond, then y'all will let him start fixing the other stuff and get back to work and get these where people can live in them?
He still would have to give us a time frame.
Okay, well, he gave a time frame in the letter. It's right in here.
But that without a performance bond before.
I
And
don't
will
think
he
that
do
matters.
one apartment at a time, or will he be all over the place?
Well, I'll have to speak with the one apartment of the time. I would have to think it would be a lot more cost efficient if you did 13 roofs at one time and then got 13 sheetrocks at one time and then got 13 done with electricity. So I don't think one building at a time is cost efficient on his end.
On the other hand, if you do one building at a time, you can put a tenant in one at a time, and you got the rent revenue coming in.
Well, you know, I felt like we gave y'all a really clear answer as to how to get this thing going. Yes, sir.
With 13 units?
Well, I mean, it's an apartment complex. That's not like rocket science. It's just.
No visuals, no pictures, no.
Ms.
You
Stewart.
can see what's down there. We're just
Yeah.
going to renovate them.
And if, my suggestion would be if Mr. Merchant have a contractor, like you come and present, can his contractor come with information?
I can find out.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's where we are. I don't think we're going to have any other movement on this tonight. We'll just go forward with what we're asking for you
Ms.
to do.
Stewart, he asked if we would accept a performance bond, would that satisfy for him to move forward?
Yeah, but if he accept a performance bond, what if it take the next 3 years? So.
Well, the answer to that, Councilman Green, is potentially. We really need to move on. I think we've exhausted this discussion tonight. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to move forward and to the.
Can I be excused?
Yes, you're excused. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is to discuss derelict property docket.
Mayor and City Council, I'm pleased to tell you, you only have 3 cases tonight. Sasha is on the line, I believe, Ms. James. The first is case number 21-0442, Lucy L. Johnson and Eddie H. Johnson, 1815 11th Avenue North. Lucy L. Johnson and Eddie H. Johnson, Lucy L. Johnson and Eddie H. Johnson. If you hear, come forward. I understand Ms. James doesn't look like they're here, but they have asked for 15-day enlargement of time in order to remove the vegetative growth, and you do not oppose. Is that right?
That's correct.
So the request is a 15-day extension.
Yes, the request is 15 days extension.
Do we have a motion? We have a motion from Councilwoman Stewart and a second from Councilwoman DeChico. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Next is case number 21-0443, Corey Tucker and Amber Tucker, 1015 2nd Avenue North, Corey Tucker and Amber Tucker. Corey Tucker and Amber Tucker, if you hear, come forward. Ms. James, I understand the owner has not remediated, and your request is for immediate abatement and an order of reentry according to state statute?
That's correct.
So moved. We have a motion from Councilman Jones. Have a second? Second. Have a second from Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Councilman, motion passes unanimously.
Next is case number 21-0393, Don Weathers, 328 Shawnee Drive, Columbus. Don Weathers, if you hear, come forward. I understand this case is the owner has remediated the vegetative growth, and all you're asking for is an order of reentry. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do we have a motion? Have a motion from Councilman Green. Do I have a second? Have a second from Councilwoman Stewart. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Mayor, if I may, the question was asked about to measure the decibel for live entertainment.
Yes.
And the answer is measured at the property line of the residence or from the adjacent public street. That's section 19-8, paragraph 1.
Do you have a question about that, sir?
It doesn't specify that, but it would be the resident of the complainant.
Both. It sounds like it could be from both. Basically, they would check to see what decibel level it was at their house.
They stand at the resident complainant's property line with the decibel reader.
Not in their house or not by the house, but on the property line. No,
Correct. Or from the curb at the street level.
Well, because it goes across the river. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But that would not be an abutting residence. But if they stand at the property line of the residence R1 zone property right next to the location where the noise is coming from, they would be closer than they would across the river, so it would be louder there, in my opinion. Yeah, they can complain. Yeah, you raise a good point. I wouldn't advise that.
Any other discussion? Believe it or not, this concludes all the items on, no, I forgot, we do. See, I did
Pierre
it,
had-
and I did it even though I wrote it down. No, you taking it off?
Yeah, I'm gonna take it out, but I would like for us to have some type of signage put up around city facilities to let people know that we still have a mask mandate in the city facilities at this moment.
And the numbers are rising.
This concludes all the items on the agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Recording stopped.
I have a motion from Councilman Jones and a second from Councilman Beard. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Good evening.
Long enough for you?